Chapter 73. The explosion of the elixir furnace was like a clap of thunder, causing Qin Fei Yang's ears to buzz. The fragments flew everywhere like sharp blades. A few wounds appeared on Qin Fei Yang's body instantly. His flesh was torn apart, and he was dripping with blood. There was even a palm-sized fragment that entered his chest and was only an inch away from his heart. In other words, if the fragment entered another inch and hit his heart, even an immortal would not be able to save him. However, he stood on the spot as if he could not feel pain. He stared at the destroyed stone platform in silence. His entire body was covered in dust, and he was in a sorry state. Zhang Haoyan, why did you cause such a big commotion? Are you all right? Open the door. Hearing the news, the two deacon elders hurried in and shouted anxiously outside the door. However, Qin Fei Yang turned a deaf ear. However, his hands slowly clenched tightly. Ling Yin and the other two at the side also looked at each other. They did not expect that the furnace would explode. This is too big. Let's retreat. Lu Hong tugged at Ling Yin and the other two's sleeves. The two of them shuddered and immediately turned to leave. Boom! The stone door opened. A cloud of dust and smoke surged out. The two deacon elders waved their hands and looked at Ling Yin and the other two. They frowned and asked, "What happened?" "The furnace exploded," Ling Yin hurriedly said before running out of the alchemy room with Lu Hong. They hurriedly ran outside. Furnace exploded? The two deacon elders were stunned and rushed in. They were shocked when they saw the messy elixir refining room. They looked at Qin Fei Yang again. He was dripping with blood. Especially when they saw the fragment in Qin Fei Yang's chest, their hearts almost jumped out. Zhang Haoyan, are you all right? Take this healing elixir. Don't move. I'll help you take out the fragment. The two of them each took out a healing elixir, and the other reached out to take the fragment. However, at this moment, Qin Fei Yang turned around and walked past the two of them, heading outside step by step. Even Zhang Haoyan failed on his first attempt. Yes. Don't be so depressed. Just try a few more times, and you'll definitely succeed. The two of them were stunned. They hurriedly chased after her and comforted her softly. Many thanks to the two elders, but the cauldron explosion is not my fault, Qin Fei Yang said gloomily. This time, Ling Yin and the other two had completely enraged him. The two deacon elders looked at each other with bewilderment in their eyes. Could it be because of Ling Yin and the other two? No matter what the reason is, healing is more important. Yes, if you don't stop the bleeding, you'll die. The two of them were burning with anxiety. The Hall Master, Elder Feng, and Elder Imo had personally given them a death order. Even if they had to die, they had to protect this kid. From this, it could be seen how important this kid was to the three magnates. If anything were to happen, they wouldn't be able to bear the consequences. The door was open. Qin Fei Yang strode out, leaving behind blood-red footprints. He stood on the stone stairs outside the door and looked up. He saw Ling Yin and the other two walking towards a large hall, chatting and laughing along the way. And they were laughing at him. Two elders, I'm fine. Don't worry. Qin Fei Yang turned his head and grinned at the two deacon elders. Then, he used the smoke-gathering steps and chased after the three of them. The two deacon elders were shocked in their hearts, because they read a trace of cold murderous intent in Qin Fei Yang's smile. Then, they looked at Qin Fei Yang, who was rushing towards Ling Yin and the other two. They immediately realized that something was wrong. Let's go and take a look. The two of them hurriedly chased after Qin Fei Yang. Ling Yin and the other two also noticed Qin Fei Yang behind them. They turned their heads to look. Immediately, their pupils shrank. The current Qin Fei Yang was covered in blood. His face was as cold as ice. Under the moonlight, he looked like a blood-soaked Azura. They couldn't help but feel scared. Zhang Haoyan, what are you trying to do? Ling Yin shouted. Qin Fei Yang didn't say anything. He moved more than 10 meters in one step and quickly approached them. Not good. He wants to kill us. Let's go. Ji Jin's expression changed. He turned around and began to escape. Kill us? Does he dare? Ling Yin was disdainful. He would believe it if Zhang Haoyan said that he scolded them. However, the Pill Hall had a rule to not kill fellow disciples. Even if Qin Fei Yang had more guts, he wouldn't dare. Lu Hong also thought that Qin Feiyang wouldn't dare. Therefore, not only did she not escape, she even stared at Qin Feiyang arrogantly and said, "Jiang Haoyin, this is the pill hall, not outside. You better keep your temper and behave." Behave? Now, I will tell you what the rules are. Qin Feiyang smiled coldly. He took a few steps forward and grabbed Ling Yan's hair. He pulled it down forcefully. At the same time, he raised his knee and kicked Ling Yan's lower abdomen. "Ah!" Ling Yan screamed on the spot. "Didn't you have a stomachache? Now, I will treat you." His eyes were filled with murderous intent. He threw Ling Yan on the ground and stepped on Ling Yan's lower abdomen. "Ah!" Ling Yan screamed crazily. His screams were heart-wrenching. His face was distorted from the pain. "How do you feel?" Qin Feiyang grinned and said, I am going to kill you." Ling Yan screamed hysterically. He crawled up and charged towards Qin Feiyang. "Humph." Qin Feiyang coldly snorted. His body tilted slightly as his fist ferociously attacked. His fist sent Ling Yan flying and similarly landed on Ling Yan's lower abdomen. "Ouch!" Ling Yan screamed like a pig being slaughtered. His face turned into the color of a pig's liver. With a bang, he fell into a bush. Even the ground caved in. Then, he couldn't get up anymore. He curled up and screamed miserably. The two deacon elders ran over and saw this scene. Their faces changed as they shouted, "Jiang Haoyin, don't mess around." "I am not messing around," Qin Feiyang said indifferently. He turned around and looked at Lu Hong. Lu Hong was already dumbfounded. She didn't expect this person to dare to make a move in the Pill Palace. "I don't hit women, but it doesn't mean that I don't dare to. Don't provoke me again." Qin Feiyang looked at Lu Hong with disdain. He walked past her and chased after Ji Jin. "Jiang Haoyin, stop right there." Lu Hong suddenly shouted. Her face was as cold as ice. In the entire Pill Palace, other than Cheng Yi, no one dared to fight with her among the disciples. Not even Ji Jin. Since the beginning, she had always thought of herself as a proud daughter of the heavens. But now, she was being looked down upon by a new disciple. Qin Feiyang's look of disdain seriously hurt her self-esteem, but Qin Feiyang acted as if he didn't hear it. "I told you to stop. Didn't you hear me?" Lu Hong was burning with anger. She turned around and pounced towards Qin Feiyang with a murderous look. True qi gushed out from her palm. Qin Feiyang slowed down. A cold light flashed in his eyes. "This is going to be a mess." The two deacon elders looked at each other. Their eyes were filled with anxiety. One of them said, "He Wu, you go and save Ling Yan. I will stop them." He Wu nodded and walked towards Ling Yan, but he suddenly turned around and shouted, "Guba, hurry up. Otherwise, someone will really die." "I know." Guba replied and chased after the two at full speed. He cursed, "These little bastards are really troublesome." At this moment, Lu Hong had already caught up with Qin Feiyang. "How dare you look down on me? I will make you pay the price." Qing Yuan palm. She let out a fierce shout and fiercely slapped Qin Feiyang's back with her palm that had been accumulating power for a long time. Qing Yuan palm was a superior martial arts technique. She was a 4-star martial master. So the strength of this palm was equivalent to the strength of 7 brute elephants. The wind from the palm whistled and sand and stones flew. But Qin Feiyang suddenly turned around and slammed his palm out as well. There was an ear-piercing sound of wind and thunder. Bang! The two palms met. Lu Hong spat out a mouthful of blood and retreated. Her face turned pale in an instant. In the end, she staggered and sat on the ground. "How is this possible? Aren't you also a 4-star martial master? How can your strength be stronger than mine?" She couldn't believe it. Qin Feiyang pursed his lips with a trace of disdain and said, "You are a typical example of shameless people. Does your butt hurt? Do you want me to find someone to rub it for you? Bastard, I will slap you to pieces." Lu Hong immediately glared and gnashed her teeth. She stood up and pounced towards Qin Feiyang. Slap! Qin Feiyang stretched out his big hand and slapped her in the face. Lu Hong was directly sent flying and rolled on the ground. There was a bloody palm print on the left side of her face. It was burning with pain. Even her cheeks were quickly swollen. There was a trace of blood at the corner of her mouth. Her hair was disheveled, and she was in a sorry state. This is the last warning. Don't provoke me. Otherwise, even if you are a woman, I will kill you. Qin Feiyang left these words and quickly turned to leave. Are you okay? Gu Ba ran over and squatted in front of Lu Hong. He asked with concern. Lu Hong said with grievance, Elder Gu, Jiang Haoyan is causing trouble out of nothing. He has no respect for the law and hurt his fellow disciples. You must punish him severely. I will report this matter to the hall master. You take care of your injuries. Gu Ba patted her shoulder and sighed deeply. He continued to chase Qin Feiyang. He was quite puzzled. How could this kid be so fast? At the same time, Ji Jin was hiding behind a large hall, gasping for air and sweating profusely. It's too scary. This person can't be provoked. He began to regret it now. If he had known this would happen, he wouldn't have caused trouble even if he was beaten to death. It should be safe to hide here. He looked outside and saw Qin Feiyang standing more than 10 meters away, scanning the surroundings. Hey, senior brother Ji Jin, what are you peeping at? I know, you must be looking at a beauty. Let Fat Lord take a look. But suddenly, a suspicious voice sounded behind him. A fat man with a big head and big ears snuck up behind Ji Jin. Ji Jin's face changed. He hurriedly turned around and covered Fatso's mouth. He shouted in a low voice, Damn Fatso, what are you shouting about? Fatso revealed a smirk. There really was a beauty there before. You really know how to join in the fun. Ji Jin cursed angrily. He turned around and stuck his head out again. Before he had time to look, a white figure suddenly appeared in front of him, blocking his line of sight. Who else could it be but Qin Feiyang? Ji Jin's face suddenly became incomparably pale. Damn, it's a man? Fatso was stunned. A trace of disdain crawled up in his eyes. He laughed and said, Senior brother Ji Jin, I didn't expect you to like men. TSK, TSK, TSK. Your taste is really heavy. Shut up. Ji Jin suddenly turned around and shouted at him. Senior brother, don't be embarrassed. Don't worry, I promise to help you keep this secret. Fatso patted his chest hard and said righteously, Where did this top quality come from? Chapter 74. Fatso also raised his head and looked at Qin Feiyang. He smiled and cupped his fists. I'm Qin Feiyang. Nice to meet you. His sarcastic tone made Qin Feiyang feel goosebumps all over his body. Ji Jin looked at Qin Feiyang and said angrily, Damn Fatso, can you keep your mouth shut? Okay, okay. I won't say anything. You guys continue to be intimate. Fat Lord will be the good guy and keep watch for you guys. Fatso looked at the two of them and gave them I understand look. He then walked away with a smirk, shaking his butt and whistling a tune. Ji Jin glared at Fatso and turned to Qin Feiyang. He smiled apologetically. He's just like that. Don't bother with him. Qin Feiyang said coldly, You don't have to worry about him. Worry about yourself. Me? Ji Jin was stunned. He pretended to be confused and asked, What about me? Ling Yan was the one who complained of a stomachache. Shouldn't you go and settle the score with him? Qin Feiyang said, Okay, I'll give you a chance. Did Chang'e ask you to come and cause trouble? Ji Jin hurriedly waved his hand. No. I was just curious. It has nothing to do with Senior Chang'e. Qin Feiyang's eyes were cold. He didn't say anything else. He reached out his hand and slapped at Ji Jin's face. Jiang Haoyan, I advise you not to push your luck. Ji Jin punched out. Suddenly, a strong wind blew and sand turned into stones. The strength of this punch was equivalent to the strength of 6 elephants. Obviously, he was prepared for this. 3-star martial master, weaker than Lu Hong. You dare to make a move? Binding tiger hand. Qin Feiyang bent his 5 fingers like an eagle's claw and brushed past Ji Jin's fist. Then he turned his wrist and grabbed Ji Jin's arm. At the same time, a ferocious glint appeared in his eyes. Driving his zhenqi, Zhang Xian exerted his strength and broke Ji Jin's arm. With a cry of agony, Ji Jin's arm was fractured on the spot. Why are they fighting? When Fatso heard the commotion, he stopped and turned around to look at the two of them. His eyes were filled with shock. Were they not lovers? Was it an enemy? Or was it because one party cheated and the other party's love turned into hate? Qin Feiyang said, "Tell me, did Chengyi send you here?" "No," Ji Jin roared, still not being honest. Qin Feiyang smiled coldly and kicked Ji Jin's knee fiercely. Crack. Immediately, his knee snapped. Ji Jin's body went soft, and he directly knelt on the ground, groaning miserably. How ruthless! When Fatso saw this, he was so scared that he broke out in cold sweat. "Can you tell me now?" Qin Feiyang looked down at Ji Jin from above. His gaze was bone-chilling. Ji Jin's body trembled and he hurriedly said, I'll tell you. Chengyi sent us here. He wants to know your talent in alchemy and wants us to create some trouble for you and embarrass you." Sure enough, Qin Feiyang whispered, "I can't help it. Chengyi has level 6 spiritual force and is well-liked by the elders and palace masters. It can even be said that among the disciples, he can cover the sky with one hand. If I don't listen to him, I guarantee that I won't have a good life in the future. Zhang Haoyan, I beg you, let me go this time. I promise that I won't provoke you in the future," Ji Jin pleaded. Covering the sky with one hand. He really thinks of himself as someone important. Qin Feiyang sneered. He moved like lightning and broke Ji Jin's other arm. He said indifferently, "I'll let you go this time, but if there's a next time," Ji Jin hurriedly said, "There definitely won't be a next time, I swear." "That's for the best." Qin Feiyang laughed disdainfully, raised his head and looked at Fatso, then turned and left. "So he's Zhang Haoyan," Fatso muttered, his eyes filled with fear. At this time, Guba finally found him. It wasn't because his speed wasn't as fast as Qin Feiyang's. It was because it was the middle of the night and it was dark everywhere. There was only the weak moonlight and candlelight. If it wasn't for Ji Jin's screams, he would have lost him. He stopped in front of Qin Feiyang and asked, "What did you do to Ji Jin?" Qin Feiyang said, "I only broke his 2 arms and 1 leg." "What?" Guba was shocked and hurriedly ran to the back of the hall. When he saw Ji Jin lying on the ground with a distorted face and constantly groaning, his face became extremely ugly. Guba shouted, "Zhang Haoyan, what the hell is going on? You must give me a clear explanation today, otherwise I can only bring you to see the hall master." Qin Feiyang said, "Sure, it just so happens that I also want an explanation. Let's go now." Gu Ba was furious, but there was a sense of powerlessness in his heart. He nodded and said, "All right, we'll go now. He Wu, bring Ling Yin and Lu Hong, and go find the hall master." He shouted again, picked up Ji Jin, and walked past Qin Feiyang, along a small path, towards the hall where Luo Xiong was. Fatso looked at the 3 of them sneakily, then turned around and ran away. "Stop," Qin Feiyang said. "He's not calling me. He's definitely not calling me," Fatso muttered, and couldn't help but quicken his pace. Qin Feiyang said, "Damn Fatso, if you don't stop, don't blame me for being impolite." Fatso's face changed, and he fled for his life. Qin Feiyang activated Luo Yin's steps, and with a few strides, he caught up to Fatso and reached out to grab the clothes on his back. However, Fatso, without saying a word, took off his clothes and continued to flee. Looking at the fat on his body that was trembling crazily, Qin Feiyang's face could not help but twitch. He did not expect this guy to be so slippery. Shua. He chased after him again and lightly hooked his leg. Fatso immediately fell to the ground and ate a mouthful of mud. Pa pa pa. Fatso got up, spat out the mud in his mouth, and looked at Qin Feiyang pleadingly, saying, "Big brother, please spare me. I'm just a passerby. Just pretend that you didn't see me, okay?" Seeing that, Qin Feiyang could not help but want to laugh, but his face was cold and said, "The point is, I saw it, and you also heard it." Fatso was like an eggplant that was sunburned, and immediately drooped his head. Qin Feiyang casually threw the clothes on Fatso's body and said with a faint smile, "Put on your clothes and leave quickly. As long as you tell the truth, you will benefit a lot." "Benefits?" Fatso sneered. While putting on his clothes, he muttered, "If I lose my life, no matter how many benefits there are, it's useless." Qin Feiyang was surprised. This Fatso's brain did not seem to be simple. He smiled without batting an eyelid. Don't worry, no one will harm you. After Fatso put on his clothes, he tidied up his hair and asked very narcissistically, Zhang Haoyin, is Fat Lord handsome? Handsome. Qin Feiyang nodded. Fatty chuckled. Lord Fatty knew it. Being fat doesn't necessarily mean that you're ugly. However, although Fat Lord is handsome, he is not stupid. What do you mean? Qin Feiyang pretended to be confused. Although Fat Lord's interpersonal relationships in the Pill Palace are not bad, he is still a second-rate character. So, no matter if it's you, Cheng Yi Jin, or that bitch Lu Hong, I can't afford to offend any of them, but this time, Fat Lord will definitely offend one of them, and he will definitely have a hard time in the future. Fatso sighed and said worriedly, Qin Feiyang was surprised. He did not expect this Fatso to be so insightful. He was sure that many people in the Pill Palace were confused by this Fatso's appearance. He looked stupid on the outside, but he was actually a very smart guy. Don't worry, with me here, they won't dare to do anything to you. Qin Feiyang patted his shoulder and found out that Fatso's clothes were soaked with sweat. He was a bit nervous. He comforted. Don't be nervous, I am here. It's a tragedy to have you here. The wind is blowing. The water is cold. The hero will never return. Let's go. We can't escape anyway. Today, Fat Lord will sacrifice his life for a righteous cause. Fatso rolled his eyes at Qin Feiyang and walked towards the small path with a solemn expression. Qin Feiyang's face twitched. Wasn't it just going to be a witness? Was there a need to be so pessimistic? What a weirdo. In the east, in a secluded corner, 3 courtyards stood side by side. In the courtyard, flowers were blooming, and the trees were verdant, full of spring. Here, it was the residence of Luo Xiong, Feng Cheng, and Elder Imo. However, there were no lights in the 3 courtyards, and it was pitch black, showing that the 3 of them were resting. Gu Ba carried Ji Jin and came to the courtyard in the middle and said loudly, Palace Master, Gu Ba requests to see you. What's the matter? After a while, Luo Xiong's voice came from the pavilion. Gu Ba said, Zhang Haoyin seriously injured Ji Jin, Lu Hong, Ling Yin. Please interrogate him personally. There was no response from the pavilion, but after a few breaths, the lights in the 3 courtyards were lit. Luo Xiong, Feng Cheng, and Elder Imo pushed open the door at almost the same time, put on their coats, and walked out. Looking at Ji Jin's miserable state, Feng Cheng looked at Gu Ba and frowned. What happened to cause such a big commotion? Gu Ba shook his head. I'm not sure about the specific situation, but it seems to have something to do with Zhang Haoyin's furnace explosion. Palace Master, 2 elders, it was Zhang Haoyin who exploded his furnace while refining pills, but in the end, he blamed it on us, and even broke my 2 arms and 1 leg. Please uphold justice for this disciple. Ji Jin had an aggrieved face, crying to the 3 of them. At this time, He Wu also carried Ling Yin, pulled Lu Hong, and ran over in large strides. Lu Hong directly knelt on the ground, bowed, and said, Palace Master and Elder, please uphold justice for me. After He Wu put down Ling Yin also lay on the ground, clutching his stomach, and said with snot and tears, Palace Master, that Zhang Haoyin is really too much. Not only did he injure us, he even tried to kill us. Palace Master, please punish him severely. What the hell is this kid doing? Elder Feng muttered, feeling rather angry in his heart. Elder Imo raised his eyebrows and asked, Why were you in Zhang Haoyin's pill refining room at that time? Ling Yin said aggrievedly, We saw that it was his first time refining pills, so we took the initiative to go, wanting to give him some pointers. We had good intentions, but who would have thought that after the furnace exploded, he would actually vent his anger on us? This is too much. Luo Xiong and the other 2 looked at each other and couldn't help but frown. Pretend. Continue pretending. I'll see how long you can pretend. At this moment, Qin Feiyang walked over slowly, his eyes full of ridicule. But Situ Tianyu, who was behind him, became even more nervous than before when he saw that the 3 big shots were all present. Chapter 75. Qin Feiyang dragged Fatso in front of the 3 giants. Seeing that Fatso followed, Ji Jin's expression changed slightly and he said in a deep voice, Fatso, What are you doing here? Does this have anything to do with you? There was a hint of threat in his eyes. Originally, the fatty was still quite nervous, but when he saw Ji Jin's unreasonable attitude, he immediately became annoyed and said, "Could it be that you don't know that Lord Fatty has a hobby, which is to fight for justice?" Ji Jin's gaze darkened. Beside him, Ling Yin and Lu Hong looked at Ji Jin with suspicious eyes. Qin Feiyong swept his gaze across the three of them and sneered, "Fat Lord, let's cut the crap and get down to business." "All right." Fatso chuckled and rolled up his sleeves as if he was ready to go all out. Cough. Feng Chung coughed and said, "If anyone dares to make a move in front of me, don't let me break your bones." Fatso shrunk his neck and hurriedly put down his sleeves. He smiled obsequiously and said, "Elder Feng, this is just a habit. I'm not going to make a move. Please don't misunderstand." Feng Chung said with a dark face, "Cut the crap and spit it out." "All right, all right, all right." Fatso nodded repeatedly and told him everything that he had heard previously. How did Fatso know? Ling Yan's expression changed drastically as he turned to look at Ji Jin and asked silently. However, Ji Jin's heart was extremely bitter at this moment. This time, not only did he offend Zhang Haoyin, he also offended Cheng Yi. Sigh. Why was his life so tough? At this moment, Fatso was almost done. He looked at Luo Xiong and the other two and said, "That's what happened." In other words, the three of them were used by Cheng Yi. Feng Qing asked, "Then what's with the explosion?" Fatso shook his head and said, "I don't know about that. You have to ask Zhang Haoyin." At that time, I was fusing with the spirit liquid, and it was the most critical moment. However, Ling Yin suddenly roared that his stomach hurt. "Everyone knows that this is my first time refining pills. How can I withstand such interference?" The pill furnace exploded, and a piece of it entered my chest. It's still here, only an inch away from my heart. Qin Feiyong pointed at his chest and said in a deep voice. The three magnates looked at Qin Feiyong's chest, and their expressions changed. "Why didn't you take it out first? If you were careless and went in another inch during the fight just now, would you have lost your life?" Feng Chung hurried over to Qin Feiyong. While cursing, he gently pulled out the shard. Qin Feiyong said, "If we take it, the evidence will be gone." "You silly boy. Even if there's no evidence, there's still a wound. Besides, we're not fools. Can't we see that? You don't cherish your life at all. You're a bastard among bastards." Feng Chung was so angry that he cursed loudly. If he died, wouldn't a monster in the alchemy world be gone? Qin Feiyong was quite touched. However, if he didn't have full confidence, he wouldn't have left the shard in his chest. After taking out the shard, Feng Chung took out a healing pill from his Qinkuan bag and directly stuffed it into Qin Feiyong's mouth without caring about anything else. Then, he took the shard and turned to look at Ling Yin and the other two. His face was as dark as water. "Do you know what you're doing? I'll tell you clearly. If Zhang Haoyin is killed by you today, even if the three of you and Cheng Yi are added together, it won't be enough to pay for it." Feng Chung roared, his hair standing on end. From the looks of it, he could kill the three of them at any time. Ling Yin and the other two trembled violently and their faces turned pale. Beside him, the fatty's eyes lit up. It seemed that this Zhang Haoyin was not just valued in an ordinary way. He was very, very valued. This also meant that their choice was right. If they chose to help Ling Yin and the other two, they would definitely anger this person. The consequences would be unimaginable. Hall Master, the four of them must be severely punished. Elder Mo suddenly spoke. Ling Yin and the other two indeed need to be severely punished. However, Zhang Haoyin is the victim and he almost lost his life. You still want to punish him severely. Old Dog Mo, do you still have a conscience? Feng Chung blew his beard and glared, scolding continuously. Elder Mo's face darkened. He took a step forward and shouted into Feng Cheng's ears. "I'm talking about Cheng Yi, not Zhang Haoyin. Can't you tell? Are you a pig?" Feng Chung was stunned. "Sorry, I misunderstood you. I apologize." Immediately after, he rubbed his ears and smiled apologetically to Elder Mo Humph. Elder Mo snorted coldly. Seeing that Luo Xiong was still deep in thought, he said, "How about this? From today onwards, Let the four of them go to the pig cage and face the wall for a month. Also, take away their alchemy room. What? Pig cage? Ling Yin and the other two were so frightened that their faces turned pale. Fatso was also dumbfounded. Luo Xiong glanced at Ling Yin and the other two and frowned. Oldemo, I agree with taking away their alchemy room, but to let them go to the pig cage, isn't it a little too? Elder Emo said. It has to be like this. Let them remember. Feng Chung said. This old man also agrees. Looking at the two of them, Luo Xiong shook his head helplessly and said, Up to you. Zhang Haoyin, you will use alchemy room number 4 from now on. That? What's your name? Luo Chang looked at Fatso. Fatso hurriedly said, Hall Master, disciple is Situ Tianyu. Situ Tianyu? Luo Xiong was slightly stunned. The name was quite imposing, but this person, his appearance, was really indescribable. You will use Lu Hong's alchemy room from now on. Luo Xiong said, Thank you, Hall Master. Fatso was overjoyed and hurriedly thanked him. Luo Xiong nodded, looked at Feng Chang and Elder Emo, and said, I'll leave the rest to you. I'll go rest first. With that, he turned and walked into the courtyard. Hall Master, wait a moment, Qin Feiyong suddenly said. Is there anything else? Luo Xiong turned and looked at him in confusion. Qin Feiyong asked, Does the big hunting competition still count? Why do you ask? Luo Xiong didn't understand. Qin Feiyong said, Because I'll definitely get first place. I'm still waiting to receive the prize. You're that confident? Luo Xiong was instantly interested and said, Come, come, come. Show me all the beasts you killed in the Black Bear Mountain. If you can surpass the number of beasts you killed last year, I'll personally give you 1,000,000 gold coins. Qin Feiyong was overjoyed and asked, You'll keep your word? Luo Xiong said unhappily, Aren't you talking nonsense? I'm the Pill Hall Master. How can I go back on my word? Qin Feiyong said, Then let me ask you clearly. How many beasts did the first place last year kill? Luo Xiong recalled carefully and said, I think it was more than 100. They were all martial master level beasts. So many? But I'm not talking about quantity, only quality. Qin Feiyong smiled confidently. He waved his hand, and the corpses of 5 beasts appeared in front of everyone. Luo Xiong glanced at them, and his pupils instantly contracted. They were actually martial ancestor-level beasts. How much ability did this kid have? Was it something that no one knew? Feng Cheng and He Wu were also very surprised. Suddenly, the three of them looked at each other, turned around at the same time, and walked into their own courtyards. Sai, Hall Master, where's the 1,000,000 gold coins? Qin Feiyong said hurriedly. When did I say I'll give you a prize? The Hall Master said expressionlessly. Then, he closed the courtyard's door with a bang. Shameless? Qin Feiyong was stunned, and he looked at Feng Cheng and Elder Emo Bang Bang. The two of them didn't say anything and closed the courtyard's door. Gu Ba, He Wu, Elder Emo and I are tired. We want to rest early. You guys can handle Cheng Yi and the others. Feng Cheng's voice came from behind the door. Yes. Gu Ba and He Wu bowed and replied. The veins on Qin Feiyong's forehead jumped violently, and he said angrily, Not only did you guys go back on your words, but the three of you also went back on your words. Can't you act like a senior? Luo Xiong and the other two hid behind the door and didn't say anything, looking embarrassed. This time, it was really embarrassing. They really couldn't figure out how this kid hunted those 5 beasts. Guba walked to Qin Feiyong, cupped his hands and said, I'm really sorry for blaming you just now. It's okay. Qin Feiyong smiled. Guba said, Then you have to recuperate well and work hard to refine pills. Don't let down the Hall Master and the 2 elders. I will. Qin Feiyong nodded and smiled. He Wu, take them. Let's go. Gu Ba carried Ji Jin and turned to leave. He Wu also held Ling Yin and Lu Hong, nodded to Qin Feiyong in a friendly manner, and quickly followed. They're finally gone. Fatso let out a long sigh. He looked relaxed on the surface, but he was actually very nervous in his heart. Let's go too, Qin Feiyong said to Fatso. He kept the corpses of the 5 beasts and didn't continue to pester them. After all, the 3 of them had helped him a lot. The fatty hurriedly followed him and chuckled. The dignified pill hall's hall master actually doesn't keep his word. If this were to spread out, I wonder how many people would laugh their heads off. Qin Feiyang said, I'm warning you, you better not talk nonsense. Don't worry, Fat Lord still knows what to do. Fatso couldn't stop laughing. It was very wretched, and it made people want to slap him. What's a pig cage? Qin Feiyang asked in a low voice. Mentioning this, Fatso laughed until his whole body shook. He said, a pig cage is a place to raise pigs. The Pill Palace raises pigs? Qin Feiyang was astonished. Fatso said, yes, but they're not raised for food. They're used to punish disciples. Qin Feiyang couldn't help but laugh. Chang'e and the other three were all proud people. Letting them stay in a pig cage for a whole month was more painful than killing them. Of course, he also felt relieved. Fatso said sneakily, the pig cage is in a corner of the Pill Fire Palace. Do you want to go and take a look? Qin Feiyang shook his head and said, not now. I'll go and concoct pills first. What's the rush? It's not too late to concoct pills after taking a look. Let's go. Don't you want to see Chang'e's expression when he enters the pig cage? Fatso dragged him and laughed sinisterly. Qin Feiyang struggled and shook his head. I'm really not going, because they don't deserve me to waste more time on them. If you want to go, you can go by yourself. Just tell me when you come back. Fatso said uninterestedly, you're really a busy person. All right, I'll go by myself. I'll find you in the alchemy room later. Qin Feiyang nodded. Fatso dragged his fat body and quickly disappeared into the night. I hope you can remember this. Otherwise, it won't be so simple next time. Chapter 76. Pill Fire Palace. Qin Feiyang walked into alchemy room number 4. Looking around, it was about the same size as the other alchemy rooms. However, the quality of the cauldron was obviously better than the one that exploded. There were many bottles and herbs on the stone table. Naturally, they were left behind by Chang'e. Qin Feiyang took off his tattered clothes, wrapped everything up and threw it outside the door. Then, he closed the stone door of the alchemy room and looked at the potential mark on his chest. If they know that I have broken the martial artist limit, I wonder how they will react. He muttered to himself. He took out a clean linen shirt and put it on. Then, he took out a set of herbs for the healing elixir and began to refine it. The first herb was 30% mature. The second herb was 40% mature. The third herb was still 40% mature. The fourth herb was 50% mature. With his previous experience, he was able to quickly refine the spiritual liquid of the 8 types of medicinal herbs. The entire process was extremely easy. He did not use much mental strength either. It seems that the alchemy fire is the most important thing in refining elixirs. Qin Feiyang mumbled. Although experience was also important, the alchemy fire was the most important factor. A high-quality alchemy fire could not only save mental strength, but also increase the speed of refining elixirs. It's time to fuse again. I must succeed this time. Qin Feiyang took a deep breath. He was fully focused. He controlled the 8 drops of spirit liquids with his mental strength and gradually drew them together. After a while, the 8 drops of spirit liquids finally met. Qin Feiyang's heart was as calm as still water. His movements were gentle, and they slowly fused together. Whoosh! Rays of light shot out from the alchemy furnace and illuminated the entire alchemy room. It was beautiful. Soon, the 8 drops of spirit liquids mixed together and formed a drop of spirit liquid the size of a finger. Oh no! Qin Feiyang forgot one thing. That was to refine the solidifying liquid first. The solidifying liquid could solidify the spirit liquids and turn them from a liquid state to a solid state. It also had the effect of waterproofing, setting fire, and preventing the medicinal properties from volatilizing. Of course, if it was soaked in water for a long time or burned for a long time, it would still dissipate and burn. Zhang Haoyan, may I come in? But at this moment, Feng Cheng's voice sounded like a timely rain outside the door. Sure, sure. Qin Feiyang said hurriedly. Feng Cheng pushed open the door and entered. After closing the stone door, he saw Qin Feiyang refining pills. He smiled and asked, how is it? Qin Feiyang said, Elder Feng, give me a drop of solidifying fluid first? What? Feng Cheng was stunned. He walked to the front of the cauldron and his face twitched. He was speechless. You don't have any solidifying liquid and you're already refining pills. You're really something. As he spoke, he took out a jade bottle. Inside, there was a transparent liquid that took up more than half of the bottle. One could even faintly see a hazy luster. This was the solidifying fluid. Feng Cheng poured out a drop. Qin Feiyang quickly split a wisp of spiritual force, wrapped the drop of solidifying liquid, put it into the pill furnace, and carefully integrated it into the drop of spiritual liquid. Immediately, the drop of spiritual liquid began to solidify. Not long after, the spiritual liquid was completely solidified. The multicolored light converged, revealing a bright medicinal pill. At the same time, a strong medicinal fragrance wafted out. It's a success. This is the first medicinal pill I've refined in my life. Staring at the healing pill floating in the pill furnace, Qin Feiyang was quite excited. After the medicinal pill is formed, it can't continue to be placed in the pill furnace because the temperature inside the pill furnace is very high. Even with the protection of the solidifying fluid, the medicinal properties will gradually evaporate. Feng Cheng reminded. Qin Feiyang quivered. With a thought, his spiritual force wrapped around the healing pill and flew out of the pill furnace like a divine rainbow. He grabbed it. The medicinal pill was a little hot. Opening his palm, the healing pill lay quietly in his palm. It was the size of a pellet. Looking carefully, one couldn't find the slightest flaw. Feng Cheng was surprised. He grabbed the medicinal pill in his hand and looked at it carefully. Level 9 spiritual force is indeed extraordinary. A moment later, he couldn't help but exclaim, "What's wrong?" Qin Feiyang didn't understand. Feng Cheng said, "This healing pill, whether in color or quality, can be regarded as the best. It's preliminarily concluded that the medicinal effect is at least 2 or 3 times that of the ordinary healing pill." Hee. Qin Feiyang rubbed his head and was a little embarrassed by the praise. "No," Feng Cheng suddenly exclaimed again, which startled Qin Feiyang. "Old man, can you not be so surprised? What's the problem? Can't you just say it?" Qin Feiyang looked at him helplessly, but Feng Cheng turned a deaf ear. His eyes were fixed on a certain part of the healing pill. Feng Cheng suddenly placed the pill in front of Qin Feiyang and said, "Brat, quickly take a look. Is there a pattern here?" Qin Feiyang glanced at it and shook his head no. Feng Cheng said, "Look carefully." "Oh." Qin Feiyang responded, looked at Feng Cheng suspiciously, and looked carefully again. Suddenly, his eyes were full of surprise. He really found a circle of pale white lines on the medicinal pill, but it was very blurry and couldn't be found if he didn't look carefully. Elixir pattern. 2 words came to his mind. Although he had never refined medicinal pills before, he had seen many medicinal pills. So the words elixir pattern were not unfamiliar. Elixir pattern actually had no practical effect, it was just a symbol. But this was a kind of affirmation, because only the best medicinal pills in the true sense would produce elixir pattern. In fact, every medicinal ingredient had a lot of impurities. Although these impurities would be volatilized in the process of refining medicinal ingredients, there would still be some impurities mixed into the spirit liquid, which was difficult to completely eliminate. Impurities would affect the quality of the medicinal pill. The less impurities, the higher the quality and the better the medicinal effect. As for this medicinal pill, there were actually a few distracting thoughts because the elixir pattern was not obvious. For a medicinal pill without impurities, the elixir pattern was not only obvious but also glowed, which was very eye-catching. Of course, it belonged to the best medicinal pill. No one could deny it. Qin Feiyang was extremely excited. He didn't expect it. The first time he refined a pill, he produced elixir pattern. It seemed that he was quite talented in the path of alchemy. "Ha! This old man has been refining pills for decades, and I have never refined a best medicinal pill. Now, I actually let you, this kid, refine it. The younger generation will surpass us in time. The younger generation will surpass us in time." Feng Cheng laughed heartily and patted Qin Feiyang's shoulder, feeling gratified. Qin Feiyang laughed dryly, feeling a little uncomfortable. But you can't be complacent. Being able to refine a best medicinal pill on your first try is not because you are very powerful, but because of your mental strength. If you don't have level 9 mental strength, I'm afraid that the medicinal pill you refined will be worse than ordinary medicinal pills. Of course, your talent in alchemy can't be denied. Feng Cheng laughed. This disciple will continue to work hard. Qin Feiyang said. And Feng Cheng nodded and said with a sneaky smile, this old man will give you this bottle of solidifying liquid, but this old man will take away this medicinal pill. When the hall master and old man Emo see it, they will definitely be shocked. Thank you, Elder Feng. Qin Feiyang cupped his hands and thanked him. The solidifying liquid required 10 kinds of medicinal herbs, and it was very troublesome to refine. And this bottle of solidifying liquid had at least a few hundred drops, which saved him a lot of time. Qin Feiyang asked, Right. Why are you always looking for me? Feng Cheng laughed. It's nothing much. I just came to see how you are refining, and if you need any pointers, but now it seems that you don't need it, so this old man won't disturb you. Good luck. And Qin Feiyang nodded. Feng Cheng turned and left. Qin Feiyang took out the bone-continuing pill's pill formula, read it carefully, and began to refine the bone-continuing pill. At the same time, Changyi was sleeping soundly. There was still a smile on his face, as if he was having a good dream. Jiang Haoyin, you dare to go against me? I'll kill you. I'll trample you to death, suddenly. He mumbled. He actually dreamed of Qin Feiyang in his dreams. How deep was this hatred? Bam! Suddenly, the door was kicked open, and Gu Ba and He Wu strode in. Who is it? Changyi was also awakened. He suddenly turned over and climbed up, looking at the door warily. Gu Ba blew on the fire and lit the candle. Changyi was slightly taken aback and asked, Two elders, why are you here so late at night? Follow us. Gu Ba said. Where to? Changyi was puzzled. Pig cage. Gu Ba said. What are you going to do in the pig cage? Changyi was even more puzzled. The palace master has ordered you to go to the pig cage and face the wall for a month. Gu Ba said. Impossible. Changyi suddenly shouted, hurriedly got out of bed, put on his clothes and said, I want to see the palace master. I want to ask clearly, what did I do wrong, to want me to go to the pig cage and face the wall for a whole month? Don't go, because the palace master doesn't want to see you now. After Gu Ba finished speaking, he looked at He Wu. The two stepped forward, ignoring Changyi's resistance and roar, one on the left and one on the right, forcibly dragged him out of the room and walked quickly in the direction of the pig cage. It must be Jiang Haoyin, I swear. I'm not done with you. Changyi's roar resounded in the night, and it did not calm down for a long time. Time flew. The horizon gradually began to turn white. Phew! Qin Feiyang let out a long breath, turned off the alchemy fire, and looked at the 20 elixirs on the stone table. The excitement in his eyes could not be concealed. They were 5 healing elixirs, 5 bone replenishing elixirs, 5 body tempering elixirs, and 5 chi gathering elixirs. This was the result of his night's work. Although the number was small, there was a circle of elixir pattern on each elixir. The only regret was that no matter how he refined, the elixir pattern could not be clearer, more obvious, and still so vague. Qin Feiyang guessed that it should be the problem of the alchemy fire and the alchemy furnace. However, after a night of refining elixirs, his spirit was still very strong, and there was no sign of exhaustion at all. This was another big advantage of a level 9 mental power. Zhang Lauda, Fat Lord is back. Are you in? At this moment, Fatso's voice came from outside the door. Boss? Qin Feiyang was stunned and shook his head with a smile. Come in. Fatso pushed open the stone door, and he was hale and hearty, in high spirits, and laughed. Are you used to the alchemy room number 4? It's okay. Qin Feiyang smiled and stretched out his hand. Give me a jade box. Fatso took out a palm-sized jade box and handed it to Qin Feiyang. He grabbed the 5 elixirs and said, Let Fat Lord take a look at the elixirs you refined. Seeing Fatso seriously scrutinizing the elixirs, to be honest, he was not used to it. Chapter 77. The value of a top-grade pill couldn't be compared to an ordinary pill. If these 20 pills were to be auctioned, they would definitely be sold for a good price. However, Fatso wasn't happy. He said angrily, "For you, I almost offended all the geniuses in the pill palace. You actually used 20 pills to fool me. Do you have a conscience?" Qin Feiyang's face twitched. He said, "Take a look first. When you go out later, close the door." After saying that, he walked out of the alchemy room and went to find Luo Shtong. No matter how you look at it, it's just an ordinary pill. How can it become a divine pill? Fatso muttered in disdain. However, after he took a closer look, his eyeballs almost popped out. There were actually pill patterns. He hurriedly checked them one by one. He found that there were pill patterns on every pill. This guy, is he still human? Fatso froze on the spot and muttered to himself. Following that, he shuddered and hurriedly kept the 20 pills. He closed the stone door and chased after Qin Feiyang. After catching up, he licked his face full of admiration and flattery. He said, "Zhang Laoda, you're too awesome. You created pill patterns on your first try. I really admire you. Can you accept me as your follower?" Qin Feiyang was stunned. He shook his head and laughed. Fatso said anxiously, "Don't laugh. I'm serious." Qin Feiyang laughed. "Sure, as long as you don't regret it in the future." "I won't regret it." Fatso patted his chest and said confidently. At this moment, most of the disciples had already woken up. They also knew that Qingyi and the other three were beaten into the pig cage. This explosive news made the morning of the Pill Palace bustle with excitement. Look, it's Jiang Haoyin. I heard that Qingyi and the other three were beaten into the pig cage. It's related to him. Let's go and ask." When the disciples saw Qin Feiyang, they rushed forward. "Fat Lord, it's up to you now." Qin Feiyang saw that the situation was not good. He said something to Fatso, then used the shifting smoke steps, broke through the layers of encirclement, and quickly disappeared. "Everyone, stop chasing. Fat Lord was there last night. As long as you are sincere enough, Fat Lord will tell you everything." Fatso roared with a smirk. Hearing this, the group of disciples immediately surrounded Fatso. At the same time, Luo Xiong, Feng Cheng, and Elder Imo were all in their respective courtyards. They were removing insects and weeding the flower beds while chatting. "Why is it so hot so early in the morning? When will it cool down?" Luo Xiong complained as he stood up and wiped the sweat off his forehead. "Soon. It will be autumn in a month." Feng Cheng smiled. "I really hope it will come soon." Luo Xiong shook his head and sighed. Suddenly, he noticed Qin Feiyang rushing over from afar, and immediately laughed out loud, saying, "Our genius is here." Elder Feng stood up and looked over, his face full of smiles. Even Elder Imo, who was usually reserved, was smiling from ear to ear. "Greetings, Hall Master." "Greetings, Elder Feng." "Elder Imo." Qin Feiyang stopped in front of Luo Xiong's courtyard and cupped his hands. Elder Feng chuckled. "Running here so early in the morning, do you have any good news to tell us?" "How can there be so many good news?" Qin Feiyang smiled bitterly and cupped his hands. "Hall Master, this disciple is here to look for you. This disciple would like to borrow the number 1 alchemy room." "Why?" Luo Xiong asked. Qin Feiyang said, "I want to try and see if I can go further." The three of them looked at each other. Others would never be able to refine a top-grade pill in their entire lives. But this kid had refined it on his first try, and he was still not satisfied? But this was a good thing. It proved that this kid was ambitious. He deserved praise. He deserved more support. Mind power, talent, alchemy fire, alchemy furnace. These are indeed the necessary conditions to refine a good pill. All right, you can use the number 1 alchemy room. I rarely refine pills anyway. Luo Xiong smiled. "Thank you, Hall Master." "Hall Master, Elder Feng, Elder Imo, goodbye." Qin Feiyang was overjoyed. He hurriedly said goodbye and ran back to the pill fire hall. What an impatient little fellow. Elder Imo shook his head and smiled. He turned to look at Luo Xiong and said, "Hall Master, I'm afraid the one and only reserved spot in the Danwang Hall will belong to this kid, right?" "Haha. Do you even need to say that?" Before the Hall Master could speak, Feng Cheng laughed first. When Qin Feiyang returned to the Pill Fire Hall, He told Guba and Elderimo about the situation. Hearing about it, both of them were shocked. One must know. The number one alchemy room was the Hall Master's personal alchemy room. In the past, the Hall Master would not allow the Pill Hall's disciples to go in and take a look. They did not expect that this kid could use it as he wished. The difference in treatment was like heaven and earth. Since the Hall Master had personally agreed, they naturally did not dare to say anything. Qin Feiyong entered the number one alchemy room as he wished. Its size was not much different from the other alchemy rooms. However, that alchemy furnace was the best in the entire Pill Hall. It even glowed with treasure light. Clang! Qin Feiyong stretched out his hand and flicked the alchemy furnace. The sound was as smooth as a pearl, and there was no noise at all. He pressed the button again and opened the black hole. Buzz! Alchemy fire quickly appeared and burned like blood. Phew! Qin Feiyong took a deep breath and began to refine healing pills. At the same time, because of this, there was an uproar outside. Not only did he trick Xingyi and the other three into the pig cage, he also obtained the right to use the number one alchemy room. What was the background of this Zhang Haoyan? Fatso also became the target of everyone's flattery. When Fatso brought the 20 elixirs into the treasure pavilion, there was a huge uproar. The Pill Hall had produced supreme-grade elixirs. This news was like a plague, spreading unstoppably in the Black Bear City. All the family heads, martial arts hall masters, and even the city lord were alarmed and swarmed towards the treasure pavilion. For a moment, Fatso became the most popular person in the city. Everyone was looking for him to find out where the supreme-grade elixirs came from. However, although Fatso liked to act cool and was greedy for small gains, without Qin Feiyong's permission, he did not dare to say it out. In the end, the 20 elixirs were auctioned for a total of 20,000 gold coins. They landed in the hands of the three family heads, City Lord and Martial Arts Hall Master. They were auctioned for a sky-high price. One must know, the market price of a single qi gathering pill was only 2 gold coins, not to mention the body tempering pill, healing pill, and bone replenishing pill. If it was an ordinary one, 20 of them were not even worth 10 gold coins. Compared to 20,000 gold coins, how much was the difference? Actually, even supreme-grade elixirs were not that valuable. After all, they were only low-grade elixirs. It was because this was the first time a supreme-grade elixir appeared in the Black Bear City. That was why everyone was fighting for it. Another main reason was vanity. Having a few supreme-grade elixirs at home was not only a source of pride, but also a symbol of identity and status. Hee. I didn't expect that Fat Lord would have such a day. Fatso made a huge profit and happily returned to the Pill Hall. However, even if he did not say anything, it did not mean that this matter was over. Anyone with a little bit of status in the Black Bear City went to the Pill Hall to visit Luo Xiong. At first, Luo Xiong was still a little confused. However, when he heard the truth from those people, he was instantly furious. This damn Fatso was really asking for a beating. However, he did not tell the truth. He said that he only knew about it now. He would tell everyone after he found out the truth. It took him a lot of effort to get rid of those people. However, the City Lord, Martial Arts Hall Master, Precious Treasure Pavilion Master, Battle King Lin Liang of the Yin City's Lin family also came personally. Not only Luo Xiong, even Fengcheng and Elderimo were annoyed and avoided them. The City Lord and the others waited for a while before tactfully leaving. However, they did not give up and tried their best to find out more. At the same time, the disciples of the Pill Hall were also discussing and guessing. They thought of Qin Feiyong, but immediately rejected it. Actually, they could not be blamed. After all, Qin Feiyong had just started refining elixirs. How could he make supreme-grade elixirs? The one who started the trouble should end it. They also targeted Fatso. However, ever since Fatso returned to the Pill Hall, it was as if he had disappeared from the world. They searched every corner of the Pill Hall but could not find him. Under Luo Xiong's courtyard, there was an airtight cellar. At the left corner of the cellar, there was a chair. The fat man was tied to a chair with his hands tied behind his back. Moreover, his whole body was covered with blood. His face was purple and red, and his eyes were swollen. Right now, He was no different from a pig head. Luo Xiong, Feng Cheng, and Elder Emo stood side by side in front of him. Their faces were filled with anger. That's right. Fatso was kidnapped by the three of them. Moreover, Elder Emo did it personally. They also saw the result. He was beaten black and blue by Feng Cheng. However, Fatso was very sullen. Zhang Haoyan gave the elixirs to him. It was his private property. He had the right to control it. Why did he have to be beaten? Wasn't this too much? What was worse was that not only was he beaten up, the 20,000 gold coins he got from the auction was also robbed by the three leaders. You are the leaders of the pill hall, not bandits. How could you do such a thing? How unseemly was that? Fatso felt that he was even more wrong than Do-yi. Luo Xiong asked, Fatso, do you know your mistake? What did I do wrong? Fatso asked back. This is too much. Even if you are the leaders, Fat Lord will not compromise today. Luo Xiong said, stubborn. Old Emo, send him to the pig cage immediately. Lock him up for a year and a half. Pig cage. A year and a half. Fatso's expression changed greatly. He hurriedly shouted, Hall Master, I know my mistake. I will definitely change. I am sincerely regretful. I am willing to accept any punishment, except for the pig cage. The three leaders looked at each other. A smile appeared in their eyes. The hall master's face darkened. He said, when you go out later, if someone asks you, just say that you picked up the elixirs. Do you understand? I understand. Fatso nodded. Feng Cheng said, then if someone asks about your injuries, do you know what to say? Fatso nodded. I know. I will say that I accidentally fell and bumped into something. Yes. Feng Cheng nodded and said, at least you know your place. This will be a lesson for you. I hope you can remember and keep a low profile in the future. The pig cage will be prepared for you at any time. Chapter 78. Fatso had completely lost his temper under the threat of the three giants. Once he was untied, he ran out of the cellar as if he was running for his life. On the way to the Pill Fire Hall, the disciples of the Pill Fire Hall kept coming and surrounded him. If you want to know the truth, don't block my way. Follow Fat Lord to the Pill Fire Hall. Fatso said. When they arrived at the Pill Fire Hall, everyone couldn't wait to urge Fatso to speak quickly. The elixir was picked up and the injury was caused by a collision. This is the truth. If you know, then go back to your own homes and find your own mothers. Don't bother me anymore. Fatty first pushed open the door and ran in. Then, without even turning his head, he quickly slipped into the alchemy room and closed the stone door tightly. Picked up? Who would believe that? Fatso, open the door. If you don't open it, we'll break the door. A group of disciples also ran into the Pill Fire Hall and blocked the door of Fatso's alchemy room and shouted, Fat Lord isn't your father. Why are you pestering him? Get lost. Fatso scolded angrily. Were they all blind? Couldn't they see that he had his difficulties? However, Fatso's words made the disciples even angrier. What are you all doing? Don't you all have anything to do? Get lost right now, or you'll all be locked in the pig cage. In the end, it was Guba and He-Wu who ran in and shouted with a sullen face that ended the disturbance. In fact, they were also puzzled. But as deacon elders, they saw and thought of more things than the disciples. So they chose to remain silent and pretend that nothing had happened. 2 days later, before the Supreme Grade Elixir incident was over, another incident was spreading like wildfire. Because today was the day of the battle between Ling Yunfei and Ling Sheng. Early in the morning, everyone rushed out of the city, hoping to get a good spot. The East City Gate was already bustling with noise and excitement. By the time the sun rose, the place was already packed with people. In a certain dense forest deep within the Black Bear Mountain, there was a huge, ferocious beast. Its entire body was pitch black, and its hair was as hard as steel needles. Its millstone-sized eyes were emitting a frightening and ominous light. It was the Black Bear King. Beside him stood a demonic young man whose body was riddled with scars. Some of the blood had already coagulated. Some of the blood had just flowed out. He was Ling Yunfei, but at this moment, he was covered in blood, and his entire body was filled with the pungent smell of blood. There was another person lying in front of the man and the beast. It was Butler Ling, but now he had become a corpse. He was killed by the Black Bear King. Ling Yunfei lowered his head and stared at Steward Ling. His eyebrows were full of surprise. A moment later, he raised his head and looked into the Black Bear King's eyes. He asked in confusion, "Senior Bear King, I have no relation to you. Why are you helping me?" The Black Bear King said indifferently, "I'm only helping you because of them." Them? Ling Yunfei was stunned and asked, "Who are they?" The Black Bear King said, "Don't worry about that and don't ask too much. Hurry back, or you'll be late." "Shit." Ling Yunfei slapped his head and said hurriedly, "Senior Bear King, can you help me again? This place is dozens of kilometers away from Black Bear City. Even if I don't eat or drink, it'll take me half a day to get there. I won't make it in time." The Black Bear King was silent for a moment before nodding. "All right, I'll help you one more time. Come onto my shoulder." Ling Yunfei bent down and hugged Steward Ling's corpse. With a powerful leap, he landed on the Black Bear King's shoulder. Bang, bang, bang. The Black Bear King strode forward and disappeared into the vast mountains with a series of loud sounds. Roar, roar. At the same time, there was a canyon not far away. In the depths of the canyon, the Wolf King and the Black Bear Cub were playing happily. Pill Fire Hall. Qin Feiyang also opened the stone door of Alchemy Room 1 and strode out. "Zhang Laoda, you're finally willing to come out. Do you know how Fat Lord endured the past few days? Even saying that he was better off dead is not enough to describe it." As soon as he appeared, Fatso's cries reached his ears. "Is it that bad?" Qin Feiyang was stunned. After closing the stone door, he looked at Fatso. He saw Fatso standing at the door of Alchemy Room 5 and looking at him pitifully. He looked very haggard. His spirit was also very weak, but there was a trace of vigilance in his eyes as he looked behind him. Qin Feiyang turned his head and looked behind him. There was no one? Puzzled, he asked, "How did you become like this? Isn't it all your fault?" Fatso felt so wrong that tears were about to fall out. "Me?" Qin Feiyang was stunned and said with a faint smile, "What's the matter? Wait for me to come back." With that, he turned and walked towards the door. "Don't. Fat Lord will go with you." Fatso hurriedly closed the stone door and chased after Qin Feiyang. "You're out. How's the result?" After the door opened, Gu Ba and He Wu saw Qin Feiyang and asked with a smile. "Not bad." Qin Feiyang nodded. Hearing this ambiguous answer, Gu Ba and He Wu didn't probe further. He Wu said with a smile, "The temple master asked us to tell you to go find him first and then go out of the city together." "Thank you." Qin Feiyang cupped his hands in thanks and strode away. Find the temple master? Should Fat Lord go? Or not? Fatso hesitated for a while, but finally gritted his teeth and followed. "Zhang Laoda, you don't know how unlucky Fat Lord is. Not only did I not get any gold coins, I was also beaten up. Even these 2 days, I hid in the alchemy room and didn't dare to come out." He complained to Qin Feiyang with snot and tears. Heard. Qin Feiyang couldn't help but be absent-minded. He didn't expect that the 20 elixirs could be auctioned at the sky-high price of 20,000 gold coins. "Zhang Laoda, Fat Lord has done so much for you. Shouldn't you also make up for Fat Lord's broken heart?" Fatso lowered his head and muttered. This was the real purpose of him coming. Qin Feiyang glanced at him and couldn't help but shake his head and laugh. He took out 20 elixirs and said, "Take them. You have to be smarter this time." "Thank you very much, Zhang Laoda." Fatso's face immediately glowed. He happily received the 10 elixirs and even looked to see if there were any markings on them. The disciples of the Pill Hall also ran to the East City Gate to join in the fun. So on the way, it was considered smooth and unobstructed. In the courtyard, Qin Feiyang stood in front of the gate and cupped his hands. "Temple Master, this disciple is here to report." Before he finished his words, Luo Shtong, Feng Cheng, and Elder Imo opened the door one after another and walked out. But seeing that Fatso was also there, the 3 of them frowned without leaving a trace. Feng Cheng said, "Let me see the elixirs refined in these 2 days." Qin Feiyang took out a Chinquin bag from his chest, took out an elixir, and handed it to Feng Cheng. Feng Chang held it in his hand and checked the markings. Although the markings on the elixir were still a little blurry, it was much clearer than the first elixir refined. He could notice it with just a glance. Luo Xiong patted Qin Feiyang's shoulder and said with a smile, "You've improved a lot. How many elixirs have you refined?" Healing elixir, bone replenishing elixir, body tempering elixir, and qi gathering elixir, 50 each. They are all here. Qin Feiyang shook the Qinkuan bag. Actually, there were 220 elixirs. But he couldn't say the 20 that he gave to Fatso, because the 3 of them would confiscate them. Amazing. I've been in the pill hall for a few months. Now, I can only refine 50 elixirs a day at most. But you've only been here for a few days, and you're already so familiar with it. You're really awesome. Fatso gave him a thumbs up and admired him from the bottom of his heart. Fengqing frowned and said, "Who allowed you to speak? Wasn't the lesson 2 days ago enough?" Fatso's face turned pale. He immediately shut his mouth and kept quiet out of fear. "Humph." Fengqing snorted and turned to look at Qin Feiyang. His face was full of smiles as he asked, "Can you give these elixirs to us? Although we can't give you as high a price as the Zhanbao Pavilion, we won't treat you unfairly." This attitude made Fatso feel that it was unfair. Qin Feiyang looked at the 3 of them. His eyes flickered. In the end, he smiled faintly and handed the Qinkuan bag to Feng Cheng. He also stated that he didn't expect anything in return. He just treated it as a small contribution to the pill hall. Seeing that Qin Feiyang was so sensible, the 3 leaders were overjoyed and couldn't stop praising him. "Let's go to the East City Gate. I want to see what kind of trouble the Ling family can cause." Luo Xiong waved his hand and strode forward, walking at the front. Feng Cheng and Elder Imo followed behind him. "Zhang Lauda, are you stupid? Why did you give the elixirs to them for free?" Fatso asked in a low voice. His face was full of pity. 200 elixirs were all supreme-grade elixirs. They could be sold for at least a few 100,000 gold coins. How stupid was he to give them away for free? Hee. Qin Feiyang smiled but didn't say anything. He had to have a long-term view. Although it seemed like he was giving them away for free, it would actually be a great help to him in the future. Because as long as he could gain the favor of the 3 of them, they would help him even more in the future. Elder Feng suddenly stopped and turned to look at Qin Feiyang. He frowned and said, "That Ling Yunfei, why haven't I seen him these few days? Didn't he come to the pill hall?" "No." Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled. "But I believe that he will definitely appear." Feng Cheng snorted. "You took such a big risk for him. If he loses today, even if the Ling family doesn't kill him, I will." Immediately after, Luo Xiong said without turning his head, "Don't worry. Even if Ling Yunfei loses, the Ling family won't dare to do anything to you." "Thank you, Palace Master." Qin Feiyang thanked him. If Ling Yunfei really loses, then he would lose the value of nurturing him. East City Gate. At this moment, all the leaders of the Black Bear City, including the Ling family, had arrived. Only the people from the pill hall were left. Why aren't they here yet? Are they afraid? They have already signed the life and death agreement. I'm afraid that they will come. Actually, this Jiang Haoyan is also a talent. But unfortunately, he is short-sighted. He bet his life on that trash Ling Yunfei. This time, he is definitely going to die. The group of young disciples from the Ling family were the fiercest. They were full of confidence and looked down on everything in the world. We still don't know who will win. Don't come to a conclusion so early. If we come to a conclusion now and lose, it will be even worse. At this moment, Qin Feiyang and his group arrived. The one who spoke was Qin Feiyang. The crowd automatically parted. Qin Feiyang followed behind the 3 leaders. His expression was indifferent and his eyes were calm. "Seems like you are very confident." Ling Shang walked out from the crowd and looked at Qin Feiyang mockingly. Qin Feiyang said indifferently, "If I wasn't confident, I wouldn't have dared to challenge you 3 days ago. I guarantee that you will regret it." Ling Shang raised the corner of his mouth and pursed his lips into a cold smile. "Then let's wait and see," Qin Feiyang said. His tone was still very calm, without the slightest ripple. Such an attitude made Ling Shang very unhappy. "Let's see how long you can pretend to be calm." Chapter 79. Qin Feiyang followed Luo Xiong and the other two up to the stage. He turned around and looked at Ling Sheng. He really couldn't understand why this person was so arrogant. Fatso didn't go up. He knew that with his identity and status, he wasn't qualified to stand on the stage. However, in the eyes of some people, Qin Feiyang wasn't qualified either. Zhang Haoyin, get down! The Ling family head shouted. His son hadn't stopped yet, and his father had come to interfere. It seemed like the father and son wouldn't let this go. Qin Feiyang asked, "Why should I go down? Take a look yourself. Who here isn't someone with status and status? You're just a little martial master. What qualifications do you have to be on equal footing with everyone?" The Ling family head said with disdain. "That's reasonable." The martial arts hall master nodded and said indifferently, "Zhang Haoyin, you should know your limits. Get down." The city lord said angrily, "You have no manners at all. Luo Xiong, how did you educate your disciple?" Luo Xiong laughed and said, "How I educate my disciple is my pill hall's business. You don't have to worry about it. However, Old Feng, Old Imo and I are very satisfied with this disciple." Feng Cheng and Old Imo looked at each other and smiled. "Zhang Haoyin, ignore them. Come and stand behind me." Elder Imo waved at Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang cupped his hands and said, "Thank you, Elder. However, I'm afraid I'll need a chair today." "How dare you? The mere disciple actually wants a chair. What wishful thinking. It seems like you're not only unruly, you're also uneducated." All the family heads shouted angrily. Educated. Hearing these two words, Qin Feiyang's body trembled. His entire temperament changed instantly. He was like an enraged lion, his hair fluttering in the wind as he looked around and sneered, "I think you guys are the ones with no manners and manners." "What did you say? I dare you to say it again." Those patriarchs glared angrily. If it weren't for the presence of Luo Xiong and the other two, they would have already attacked Qin Feiyang. "I said, you guys are the ones who have no manners." Qin Feiyang said word by word. "How preposterous. City Lord, this brat has no respect for his elders. I suggest that we expel him immediately." All the family heads turned to look at the city lord. The city lord's gaze turned cold and he said in a solemn voice, "Zhang Haoyin, if you don't give this city lord a satisfactory explanation today, don't think about leaving here." Qin Feiyang said, "It just so happens that I also need an explanation. May I ask why everyone is gathered here today?" The city lord said, "Nonsense. Of course I'm here to watch the battle between Ling Sheng and Ling Yunfei." "Yes." Qin Feiyang nodded and said, "If I may be so bold as to ask again, who issued the letter of challenge and who signed the life and death agreement?" The city lord frowned, not understanding why Qin Feiyang asked such a question, and said, "It's you?" "Yes, I issued the letter of challenge and I signed the life and death agreement. I'm equivalent to Ling Yunfei's guarantor. Why can't you prepare a chair for me? And why can't you let me come up? If even I, the guarantor, am not qualified to come up, then what qualifications do you unrelated people have? I want to ask, what does it have to do with you? Are you all too free? If you want to watch the show, get down and watch, okay?" Qin Feiyang scolded him on the spot. So what if he was the city lord? So what if he was the patriarch? Did he think that he was easy to bully because he was weak? Causing trouble for him everywhere? Embarrassing him? Let me tell you, no way. Although he was in dire straits now, he had not fallen to the point where he could be bullied by anyone. Qin Feiyang took a deep breath and regained his calm. He turned to look at the Ling family head and said indifferently, "You are also Ling Shang's guarantor. If I don't have the qualifications to sit here, then shouldn't you also get lost?" The Ling family head clenched his fists, and his eyes were extremely gloomy. The city lord, the martial arts hall master, and the other family heads were even more furious. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, they were actually scolded by a junior. What a joke. Although the people below the stage felt that Qin Feiyang was a little arrogant, what he said was very reasonable. This was a personal grudge between Zhang Haoyin and the Ling family. The unrelated people should retreat to the side and watch silently. But now, they were all speaking with conviction and putting on an attitude as if they were the most important person in the world. They really had nothing better to do. asking for a scolding. Qin Feiyang looked at Luo Xiong and the precious treasure pavilion master, cupped his hands and said, "You two are the most impartial people in Black Bear City. Tell me, who is the one here who has no rules?" Bastard with an impure heart. The two cursed in their hearts. This little bastard was simply a human. After thinking for a while, the pavilion master smiled and said, "If it was in a normal situation, Zhang Haoyan would not be qualified to be on equal footing with us in public. But now, he is the party involved. Let's put it this way, he is now the host, and we are the people he invited to watch the show. We are indeed not qualified to say anything. He should have a seat." Luo Xiong only said this one sentence, but it was enough to express his position. Qin Feiyang looked at the city lord again and said with a smile, "City lord, what do you think? I know that you can't wait to strangle me to death, but justice is in people's hearts. If you are not afraid of others gossiping behind your back, then go ahead and do it." "Great. Boss is indeed the boss. Boss, keep it up. Ga." In the silent crowd, a loud roar suddenly sounded. Fatso was standing in the front row, jumping up and down as if he was injected with chicken blood, laughing weirdly. "Is this damn Fatso looking for death?" Everyone looked over, and their faces became extremely strange. Cough, cough. Qin Feiyang coughed dryly. Fatso quivered. Seeing that everyone was looking at him, he suddenly broke out in cold sweat. His face turned pale, and he hurriedly lowered his head, not daring to breathe loudly. "After talking for so long, is anyone going to bring me a chair?" Qin Feiyang roared. He once again became the focus of the crowd. The city lord's face was gloomy, and he shouted, "Bring him a chair." A guard hurriedly took out a chair from his chinkuan bag and asked, "Where is it?" Qin Feiyang sighed and said, "Originally, I was the party involved and should sit in the middle, but everyone here is a senior, so I can only suffer and sit to the side." "Suffer? Senior?" Hearing this, everyone was speechless. "When you pointed at their noses and scolded them just now, why didn't you treat them as seniors? For a chair. You caused such a commotion here, and you call it suffering? You have said good things, and you have also said bad things. What else can you do? You can't be so shameless." That guard was also speechless to the extreme. He had seen people who were not afraid of death, but it was the first time he met someone who was seeking death. After this matter, there was no possibility of turning back the key between this person and the city lord. After placing the chair, that guard retreated to the side. Qin Feiyang grinned, walked over boldly, and sat on the chair. He said with satisfaction, "Great, this is the treatment that should be given. City lord, thank you." The city lord immediately turned his head and privately chatted with the martial arts hall master. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and looked at Fatso. Fatso immediately gave him a thumbs up. "Zhang Haoyan, where is Ling Yunfei? He hasn't appeared yet. Could it be that he is scared silly by me and doesn't dare to come?" At this moment, Ling Shang sneered, "What's the hurry? Before he comes, calm down. With your current state, I can kill you in one move." Qin Feiyang said faintly. This person was too conceited, too arrogant, and a standard playboy. If it wasn't because he wanted to save Ling Yunfei's mother, he would feel that it was a waste of time to even look at him. That's right, Ling Yunfei's mother? Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows and looked at the Ling family head. He found that the Ling family head was looking at the Black Bear Mountain, frowning slightly and looking a little irritated. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed and asked, "Ling family head, are you wondering why housekeeper Ling hasn't come back yet?" How did he know? The Ling family head was shocked. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "On the night of the letter of challenge, I accidentally saw housekeeper Ling sneaking out of the city and entering the Black Bear Mountain. I was curious. Why did he go to the Black Bear Mountain?" Ling family head, do you know? The Ling family head said in a deep voice, "I don't know." Qin Feiyang said playfully, "Who in the Black Bear City doesn't know that housekeeper Ling is your confidant? How could you not know?" "If I say I don't know, then I don't know. Why are you talking so much nonsense?" The Ling family head shouted angrily, but an uneasy premonition arose in his heart. The city lord and the others also stopped their discussion and looked at the two of them thoughtfully. It seemed that there were still many things that no one knew about. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and said, "Okay, Okay, okay, I won't talk nonsense, but I want to ask, where is Ling Yunfei's mother? Why isn't she present? The Ling family head said disdainfully, haste makes waste. Let's wait for Ling Yunfei to win first. I'm afraid that when the time comes, you'll go back on your word. At this moment, a cold voice sounded. The world seemed to have entered a cold winter, and everyone felt an inexplicable chill. Qin Feiyong raised his head and looked. He saw a blood-colored figure behind the crowd. Who else could it be but Ling Yunfei? He was like an Azura returning. His body was filled with a monstrous killing intent and hostility. However, the Ling family head and a group of Ling family elders all stood up suddenly. Their eyes were filled with disbelief. Because on Ling Yunfei's shoulder, there was a person. It was the person they were worried about, Steward Ling. The crowd hurriedly separated. Ling Yunfei walked towards the high platform step by step, his body emitting a pungent smell of blood, causing the surrounding crowd to panic. Swoosh! He jumped and landed on the high platform. First, he placed Steward Ling in front of the Ling family, then stood beside Qin Feiyong, his eyes staring at Steward Ling, like an awakening beast. It was quite terrifying. The Ling family head squatted on the ground, stretched out his finger and placed it in front of Steward Ling's nose. Immediately, his arm trembled, and he looked up at Ling Yunfei angrily and shouted, "Did you kill him?" Ling Yunfei said, "Before you speak, think first. I'm a martial master. How can I kill a martial great master? It was just a coincidence. I couldn't bear to see his corpse in the wilderness, so I brought him back. You should thank me." He no longer had any feelings for the Ling family, only hatred, because if it wasn't for the Black Bear King's help, he would have died in Steward Ling's hands. Actually, he didn't know that the one who had been helping him was Wolf King. Luo Xiong looked at Steward Ling's injuries and said, "He did die in the hands of a beast, and it was the Black Bear King who killed him, because there are wounds on his body caused by the Black Bear King's claws." Ling family head, your guts are really big. You actually dared to provoke it. The latter half of the sentence was filled with sarcasm. The Ling family head clenched his fists, making a cracking sound. Not only did Ling Yunfei not kill him, but he also lost a martial great master. How could he not be angry? He also knew that things were not so simple, but he had to endure it. Because once everyone knew about his despicable deeds, not only him, but the Ling family would become the target of public criticism. At that time, even the city lord might not protect him. But he couldn't let this matter rest. He raised his head and looked at Ling Shang, his eyes filled with murderous intent. "Shang'er, let's begin." Ling Shang nodded and turned to Ling Yunfei, shouting, "Get over here and accept your death." Qin Feiyong asked, "Are you confident?" "Just watch." Ling Yunfei smiled coldly and walked to the center of the stage, standing opposite Ling Shang. There was only a distance of 5 meters between the two. Ling Yunfei said, "Can I kill people?" Ling Shang said, "After signing the life and death agreement, of course you can kill people. I don't want you to leave this stage alive." Chapter 80. Ling Yunfei clenched his fists. The resentment in his heart that had been suppressed for more than 10 years turned into a monstrous rage that spread rapidly. Bang! The two of them stomped on the ground and charged at each other like two wild bulls. He clenched his fists. He threw a punch at his opponent. Boom! The two fists collided violently. A shocking wave of air emerged, with the two of them as the center, rolling in all directions. At the same time, there was a muffled groan. Ling Shang staggered and retreated continuously. His face instantly turned pale. What? Seeing this scene, everyone present was dumbfounded and filled with disbelief, especially the people of the Ling family. Their mouths were opened so wide that an egg could be stuffed in. How could this be? After Ling Shang stabilized his body, he looked at Ling Yunfei in disbelief. They were in the same family and had been together for more than 10 years. He was confident that no one knew this person better than him. Not only was he a good-for-nothing, but he was also timid and incompetent. But at this moment, not only did he dare to fight with him, he even forced him to retreat with one move. This completely overturned his understanding of the world. Although this was only the first meeting, Everyone's hearts were in turmoil at this moment. They were unable to calm down. Only Qin Feiyong was watching quietly. He was not surprised at all. Everything was within his expectations. Ling Yunfei flicked his sleeves and stood straight like a javelin. He looked at Ling Sheng for a moment and said, "If I'm not wrong, you didn't use your full strength just now because you wanted to torture me and make me wish I was dead." At this moment, everyone could clearly feel that this person had completely changed. He was no longer the little sheep in the past. He was now an awakened lion that bared his fangs. "So you've been hiding your strength." Ling Sheng's face was gloomy. That's right. Previously, he did not use his full strength because he was afraid that he would kill Ling Yunfei with one punch. That would be too easy for him. But he did not expect that the other party had hidden his strength. This made him suffer a great loss. In fact, it did not matter if he suffered a loss. The most important thing was that he lost face. The corners of Ling Yunfei's lips curled up into an evil smile. He said with disdain, "The Ling clan, including you, have always thought that you know me very well. But do you really know me? Don't think that you can boast shamelessly just because you're a 4-star martial master. Let me tell you, you're not qualified." Ling Sheng was infuriated as he charged forward. True Qi surged from his palm as he sent a palm strike at Ling Yunfei. This time, he didn't hold back. He no longer dared to hold back. "Whether or not I'm qualified, we'll see." Ling Yunfei didn't dodge at all. Instead, he raised his arm and struck out with his palm. Bang! True Qi like dragons collided with each other with a loud bang. The two of them retreated at the same time, blood flowing out from the corners of their mouths. Neck and neck. Ling family head's heart skipped a beat as he shouted, "Ling Sheng, what are you doing? Stop hiding your strength and kill him." Hiding his strength? Qin Feiyong raised his eyebrows. "Ling Yunfei, I wanted to torture you, but I have no choice. I can't disobey my father's orders." As soon as he finished speaking, Ling Sheng's body trembled as a terrifying aura emanated from his body. His robes and long hair fluttered in the wind, making him look rather imposing. He's a 5-star martial master. I didn't expect him to hide his strength as well. He's only 18, right? In a small city like Black Bear City, there are only a handful of 18-year-old 5-star martial masters. With Ling Sheng's current strength, he's already strong enough to dominate the younger generation. His future is limitless. Everyone was shocked as they discussed. The martial arts hall master's eyes flashed as he turned to look at Ling family head and said, "I agree to your request to remove Ling Yunfei's qualification and let Ling Sheng enter the martial arts hall." "Thank you, hall master." Ling family head hurriedly stood up and thanked him. Frog in the well. Qin Feiyong didn't hide his sarcasm. "And?" The martial arts hall master frowned as he turned to look at Qin Feiyong with hostility. "Zhang Haoyin, don't say that the grapes are sour because you can't eat them. There are some things that you can't be jealous of." Ling family head said indifferently as he returned to his seat, his eyes full of contempt. An 18-year-old 5-star martial master or a 16-year-old 4-star martial master? Which one is more promising and more valuable? I believe that anyone with a clear head would be able to figure this out. Qin Feiyong laughed. The martial arts hall master clenched his fists as his face was filled with anger. These words were basically hinting that he had no foresight and was already muddle-headed. "I'll deal with you later." Ling Sheng glanced at Qin Feiyong as his eyes flashed coldly. He then looked at Ling Yunfei and said disdainfully, "Did you see that? This is the difference between you and me." Ling Yunfei nodded and said seriously, "The difference is indeed huge. Since you know that, then you should obediently submit yourself to capture." Ling Sheng walked towards Ling Yunfei in an imposing manner. The disdain on his face was even thicker. He thought that after seeing his true cultivation, Ling Feiyong would give up resisting. Therefore, he acted very arrogant and cocky, his nostrils almost reaching the sky. Qin Feiyong laughed. Ling Yunfei laughed as well. This person was not just arrogant in the ordinary sense. However, there was a price to pay for being arrogant. Ling Yunfei took a step forward. His speed was actually several times faster than before. In the blink of an eye, he appeared in front of Ling Sheng. His big hand reached out without hesitation and slapped towards Ling Shang's chest. Puff. Bang. On the spot. Ling Shang was sent flying by the slap. He spat out blood and screamed as he landed heavily on the ground more than 10 meters away. Crack. The place immediately shattered like a spider web. Shang'er. Ling family head stood up and looked at Ling Shang worriedly. At the same time, he was extremely surprised. How could Ling Yunfei's speed be so fast? Many people could not figure it out. It's an auxiliary martial technique. However, suddenly, the martial arts hall master exclaimed and stood up abruptly. He looked at Ling Yunfei in disbelief. What? Auxiliary martial technique? What kind of joke is this? The auxiliary martial technique is extremely rare. The entire Black Bear City does not have it. How could Ling Yunfei have it? I don't believe it. I don't believe it either. The place was instantly in an uproar. The crowd's clamor resounded throughout the place. Although it's hard to believe, the footwork he used just now is indeed an auxiliary martial technique. Looking at his speed, its grade is not low. The pavilion master said thoughtfully. Suddenly, he turned to look at Qin Feiyang. Seeing Qin Feiyang's calm expression, he was not surprised at all. He could not help but be stunned. Then, as if he had figured something out, he shook his head and smiled bitterly. Kid, I still underestimated you. Everyone looked at Qin Feiyang. Could it be that this matter had something to do with him? You're actually a 5-star martial master too. At this moment, a voice filled with shock exploded like a clap of thunder. Who's a 5-star martial master? Everyone was stunned and looked at Ling Yunfei and Ling Shang. They saw Ling Shang climb up from the ground and stare at Ling Yunfei opposite him. His pale face was full of disbelief. Could it be that he's talking about Ling Yunfei? Everyone was surprised. Ling Shang's face gradually became incomparably ferocious. He gritted his teeth and said, I really didn't expect you to hide so deeply. Mother told me that if I want to survive in the Ling family, I have to endure. So, since I was sensible, I've been enduring. You insulted me. I endured. You took away my things. I endured. You didn't give me martial techniques, didn't give me resources, and didn't even give me food. I still endured. I thought that my tolerance would make you restrain yourself and treat me better. But I was wrong. Not only did my tolerance not have any effect, but it also increased your arrogance. I have to say that human nature is to bully the weak and fear the strong. Ling Yunfei said. Whether it was his tone or his eyes, they were filled with endless heartache and pain, with a trace of self-mockery. Bullying the weak and fearing the strong. What a joke. Do you think you're really strong? Don't be so self-righteous. In my eyes, you're not even comparable to an ant. Go to hell. Ling Shang roared and rushed towards Ling Yunfei, full of murderous intent. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed coldly. He looked at Ling Yunfei and shouted, Show your full combat strength and let those who look down on you regret it. They will definitely regret it. Ling Yunfei smiled coldly. Carrying a terrifying murderous intent, he rushed towards Ling Shang. Both of them were furious and full of murderous intent. Boom. In an instant, they met. Moo. Ling Shang punched out. The fist wind was like the roar of a bull, extremely fierce. It was the bull fist. Ling Yunfei used the essence convergence steps and dodged it easily. Heart lock killing fist. Then, with a roar, he punched Ling Shang's chest. This punch, it seemed to have no strength at all. Not only was Ling Shang not pushed back, he was not injured at all. What bullshit killing fist, it's worse than trash. Ling Shang sneered, his eyes full of disdain. Wah. But the next moment, he suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. His pupils rapidly dilated, and with a bang, he fell to the ground. At that moment, he died. What? Dead? Everyone was dumbfounded. Ling Yunfei lowered his arm, looked down at Ling Shang, who had died with his eyes wide open, and mocked. You didn't understand what I meant just now. I was saying that the gap between you and me is indeed quite big. After he finished speaking, he turned around and walked to Qin Feiyang's side. He raised his head and looked at the people of the Ling family with a bone-chilling gaze. The scene was dead silent. What are you waiting for? Hurry up and take a look. The Ling family head suddenly shouted. Several clan elders immediately ran to the center of the high platform. When they looked down, their faces turned pale. Patriarch Shang was really killed by him. An elder turned his head with difficulty and said to the Ling family head. As soon as these words came out, the audience was in an uproar. The Ling family head was like a bolt from the blue, and he was stunned on the spot. Gradually, his body trembled violently. Suddenly, he raised his head and looked at Ling Yunfei and Qin Fei Yang, his eyes bursting with bone-chilling killing intent. Little beast, I'm going to kill you and bury you with Shang. With a sorrowful roar, he rushed towards the two of them like a madman. His face was distorted and looked extremely ferocious. At the same time, the other elders also pounced towards the two of them. Qin Fei Yang raised his eyebrows and shouted, "What? Are you not following the rules?" He suddenly stood up and stood in front of Ling Yunfei. This move tugged at everyone's heartstrings. Chapter 81. However, that was not the case. Qin Fei Yang knew his limits. The Ling family head and a few of the clan elders were all martial arts grandmasters. With his current strength, it was not luoff to fill the gaps between their teeth. He did this to let Luo Xiong and the other two take action. As expected, seeing him standing in front of Ling Yunfei, Luo Xiong and the other two's faces changed. Crash! Streaks of dazzling battle chi surged out from their bodies like a torrent. They covered the sky above the stage and emitted a destructive aura. Whoever dares to move will be killed without mercy. Luo Xiong roared. The Ling family head and the other elders trembled and stopped in their tracks. They looked at the battle chi above their heads in fear. Their bodies were drenched in cold sweat. Qin Fei Yang secretly heaved a sigh of relief. He turned around and looked at the city lord. Seeing that the city lord was indifferent, he frowned and said, "City lord, you wrote the life and death agreement yourself. Are you not going to say anything? Are you going to side with the Ling family? I want to check it out personally." The city lord stood up and walked towards Ling Shang. His face was ugly. This was not the result he wanted. In these 3 days, he had never worried, nor had he ever thought that Ling Shang would be defeated. He had even planned how to teach Qin Fei Yang a lesson after Ling Shang won. However, everything was a mess now. He did not know what to do. He came in front of Ling Shang and looked carefully. Suddenly, a trace of doubt appeared in his eyes. However, gradually, the doubt disappeared and was replaced by horror. How is this possible? The heart is actually broken. Finally, he could not help but exclaim, "What?" All the leaders and family heads were shocked. They went forward to check. It is really broken. Everyone was dumbfounded. There weren't any external wounds on his chest, but his heart was already torn apart. Wasn't this too strange? Was this the legendary hitting a bull through a mountain? The martial arts hall master turned to look at Ling Yunfei. His eyes were shining as he asked, "When did you master this martial skill?" "I don't know," Ling Yunfei said expressionlessly. The martial arts hall master was too hypocritical. Be it Qin Fei Yang or Ling Yunfei, Zhang Yi didn't have a good impression of him and even felt disgusted. However, the martial arts hall master turned a blind eye to such an attitude, and a smile crept onto his face. Seeing this, the Ling family head felt that something was wrong. He hurriedly bowed and begged, "Hall master, I beg you, please help Shang." The martial arts hall master frowned and said unhappily, "Why should this hall master stand up for him?" The Ling clan head was anxious and said, "Hall master, he is now a disciple of the martial arts hall. You promised him yourself." "I did agree to it, but he hasn't officially entered the martial arts hall. He can't be considered a disciple of the martial arts hall. Besides, you've already signed the life and death agreement. You should accept your loss. Stop looking for trouble with Ling Yunfei. Otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite," the martial arts hall master said coldly. The Ling family head's face turned ashen on the spot. If he didn't care, then so be it. He didn't expect that he would be threatened. What was this? Just ask. Was such a person worthy of being the martial arts hall master? However, no matter how much resentment he had in his stomach, he could only endure it. Qin Feiyang and Ling Yunfei looked at each other when they saw Ling family head's sorry state. A trace of ridicule crept into their eyes. Which of these big shots wasn't snobbish? If you had value, he would help you. If you had no value, who were you? Why should he help you? Get lost as far as you can. This was the most realistic problem. Therefore, if you wanted to be valued, you had to work hard to prove your value. Qin Feiyang whispered, "If nothing goes wrong, the martial arts hall master will definitely invite you to join the martial arts hall." As expected, before his voice faded away, the martial arts hall master looked at Ling Yunfei and smiled. "I am deeply sorry for what happened before. I now solemnly invite you to join the martial arts hall. I promise you, as long as you agree, the martial arts hall's only reserved quota will be yours." After these words were spoken, everyone was in an uproar again. However, those people from the Ling clan looked as if they had eaten dog poop. Their faces were extremely ugly, because once Ling Yunfei agreed, he was destined to soar to the sky. That meant that Ling Yunfei would be completely out of their control. They would even have to look up to him and respect him. This was extremely disadvantageous to them. However, Ling Yunfei was hesitating. Although he hated the martial arts hall master, joining the martial arts hall was something he had always desired. But now, he had to consider Qin Feiyang. Without Qin Feiyang's help, he would still be that cowardly trash and wouldn't have his current achievements. If he agreed to the martial arts hall master's invitation, it would be equivalent to burning the bridge after crossing the river. Suddenly, he laughed at himself. What was there to hesitate about? Shouldn't a person know how to repay kindness? With this thought, he looked up at the martial arts hall master and shook his head. "Sorry, I will not join the martial arts hall. I have already promised Zhang Haoyan that I will be his sword for life." Rejected? Everyone was surprised. He actually rejected such a tempting offer? What was so great about this Zhang Haoyan? How could such a genius be willing to follow him for life? This was also the doubt in the hearts of all the tycoons. However, the martial arts hall master was very angry. He had already said good words and helped him, but he didn't expect that he would still be rejected. And it was only because of a 4-star martial master. Could a mere 4-star martial master be compared to the martial arts hall? No way. It was like the difference between clouds and mud. But Ling Yunfei chose this pile of mud. This was simply humiliating him in the martial arts hall. As for Qin Feiyang, he was naturally very happy, because this proved that he didn't misjudge Zhang Haoyan. However, he smiled and said, "Ling Yunfei, go to the martial arts hall. The Martial King Hall is your stage. Go and show your talent to your heart's content." What? Ling Yunfei was stunned. The others were also stunned. "I mean what I say. Don't test me." Ling Yunfei was a little unhappy. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "I'm not testing you. I sincerely hope that you can enter the Martial King Hall." Seeing that Ling Yunfei still didn't believe him, he smiled helplessly and looked at the martial arts hall master. "I agree on his behalf. I hope you can treat him well." Of course, the martial arts hall master smiled. For the first time, he found that this kid was quite pleasing to the eye. "Why?" Ling Yunfei looked at Qin Feiyang and asked, "How can there be so many whys in the world?" Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled. He turned to the Ling family head and said, "Now can you hand over Ling Yunfei's mother to us?" Mentioning this, Ling Yunfei immediately put down the doubts in his heart and turned to stare at the Ling family. "Family head, what should we do?" A group of elders looked at the Ling family head anxiously. The Ling family head was also very anxious and racked his brains to think of a plan. Suddenly, an idea flashed in his mind. "Don't worry, I still have a trick up my sleeve. I guarantee that Zhang Haoyan will never be able to make a comeback." He whispered to the elders and looked at the city lord. He cupped his hands and said, "City lord, there's something I need to report to you." "What is it?" The city lord frowned. The Ling family head said, 3 days ago, Zhang Haoyan killed 2 city guards called Zhao Lu and Li Qi. Indeed, he wants to frame me." Qin Feiyang sneered secretly. "Really?" The city lord didn't ask for the reason. He only asked if it was true or not. It was enough to show that he still wanted to deal with Qin Feiyang. The Ling family head nodded and said, "It's true. I can guarantee it with my life." I also know that their bodies are buried outside the pill hall. The city lord's eyes flashed. He shouted, "Bring me there immediately." The Ling family head turned around and muttered to the elders. Those elders nodded and carried housekeeper Ling and Ling Sheng's bodies. They quickly entered the city and disappeared. Why did you let them leave first? Qin Feiyang mumbled. His eyes were filled with thoughts. There was no need to be so impatient to bury Ling Sheng and housekeeper Ling's bodies, right? If it was during normal times, he wouldn't doubt it. However, it was a special time now. It wasn't normal to let a group of elders leave first. The Ling family head glanced at Qin Feiyang and sneered. He then looked at the city lord and bowed. "City lord, please." The city lord looked at Luo Xiong and said, "Let's go together." "All right." Luo Xiong frowned and nodded. The Ling family head left quickly with the other leaders. Feng Chang came to Qin Feiyang's side and asked in a low voice, "Are you going to do it or not?" Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "Elder Feng, just wait and see." "Brat, you're being so mysterious." "All right, I'll wait and see. However, you have to follow me closely now. I'm worried that the Ling family will do something desperate and might plot against you." Feng Cheng whispered. He then looked at Ling Yunfei and said, "You too?" The two nodded and followed Feng Cheng to the city gate. Ling Yunfei said, "You must have your reasons for asking me to go to the martial arts hall." "There's no reason. I'm just worried that I can't afford to raise you," Qin Feiyang said half-jokingly. Ling Yunfei's face darkened. He wasn't a woman. Why would he need to be raised? "Zhang Lauda, wait for me." At this moment, Fatso squeezed out of the crowd and ran to Qin Feiyang's side. He laughed and said, "Boss, you're so awesome. You're Fat Lord's idol." Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes. Suddenly, he had an idea. He whispered, "Fat Lord, do me a favor." "What favor?" Fatso was stunned and asked. Qin Feiyang whispered in Fatso's ear. "Really?" Fatso was surprised after hearing it. Qin Feiyang shook his head and said, "I'm just guessing. I can't be sure. However, it's hard to predict a person's mind. It's necessary to take precautions. Go quickly. After you're done, I'll give you dozens of supreme-grade elixirs." "No problem. Leave it to Fat Lord." Fatso's eyes lit up. He patted his chest and vowed. Then, he squeezed into the crowd and ran into the city in front of everyone. He disappeared without looking back. Ling Yunfei was puzzled. "What did you ask Fatso to do?" "Just in case." Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and asked, "Do you still have feelings for the Ling family?" Ling Yunfei said, 3 days ago, I did have some feelings. However, when I saw Butler Ling enter the Black Bear Mountain to kill me, all feelings were gone. After saving my mother, I will have nothing to do with the Ling family." "That's good." Qin Feiyang nodded while strands of bright light flickered in the depths of his eyes. Chapter 82. A few hundred breaths later. A group of people arrived at the entrance of the pill hall. The city lord looked around and asked, "Where are the corpses?" To be honest, the Ling family head didn't know the exact location, because only Butler Ling and Qin Feiyang were there when they were buried. "Hurry up and search. See if there are any traces of digging." The Ling family head waved his hand. Dozens of Ling family disciples immediately spread out and started a carpet search. Zhao Lu and Li Qi's corpses were originally buried outside the entrance. Therefore, soon, he found some clues. However, when the Ling family people dug up the soil, they were dumbfounded. There was nothing. How did this happen? The Ling family head stood beside the deep pit, dumbfounded. Luo Xiong snorted. "Ling family head, tell me, where are the corpses?" The Ling family head quivered and shouted to the dozens of disciples, "They must be here. Continue digging and searching." Luo Xiong said, "I'll say this first. If you can't find their corpses today, your Ling family will be removed from Black Bear City." The Ling family head's body trembled. The city lord raised his eyebrows and said, "Luo Xiong, it's not that serious, right?" Luo Xiong sneered. "He slandered my pill hall's disciples. It's equivalent to damaging my pill hall's reputation. He's challenging my pill hall's dignity. Isn't that serious?" The city lord frowned deeper and deeper. At this moment, Qin Feiyang took a step forward and looked at the Ling family head playfully. Everyone, the person who killed Zhao Lu and Li Qi is actually Butler Ling, a bunch of nonsense. The Ling family head immediately shouted. If you don't do anything wrong, you won't be afraid of ghosts knocking on your door. Why are you so agitated? Qin Feiyong sneered. Zhang Haoyin, do you have proof? Luo Xiong asked. Yes, everyone. Follow me to the Ling family. Qin Feiyong turned and left. Everyone followed him. The Ling family head was surprised. But when he thought of what he told Butler Ling, his uneasy heart calmed down. He snorted. I want to see what proof you have. You guys continue to search nearby. I'll follow them back. After instructing the disciples of the clan, he quickly chased after them. When they arrived at the Ling residence, only a few big shots from Black Bear City went in. The others gathered outside, waiting for news. Qin Feiyong looked around the entire way, looking for that fake mountain. After all, he had only been to the Ling family twice, and both times were late at night. Naturally, he wasn't familiar with the layout and environment of the Ling family. Ling family head said coldly, if you can't find him, you must give me an explanation today. You're really forgetful. Let me remind you out of kindness. You're the one who slandered me first. Even if you don't find her, we'll just call it even. Qin Feiyong said lightly. Even? What a delusion. Ling family head sneered secretly. Several hundred breaths passed. Qin Feiyong finally found the rockery. Thus, he led everyone to the back of the rockery. Luo Xiong asked, Is Zhang Haoyin here? Qin Feiyong nodded. Old Feng, Luo Xiong shouted. Feng Chung waved his hand, and his battle qi gushed out, causing the soil to churn. It stinks. It's the smell of corpses. Before the corpses appeared, a pungent smell of corpses was emitted from the soil first. How could it be? Ling family head's eyes trembled as he stared at the pit. As the soil continued to reduce, the two corpses gradually appeared in everyone's sight. 3 days had passed, and under the hot weather, the corpses had begun to rot. How could this be? Ling family head muttered to himself, full of disbelief. The city lord's eyes darkened as he turned to look at him and shouted, What explanation do you have? Ling family head quivered and hurriedly said, City lord, this is framing. Zhang Haoyin is framing me. Please investigate. The city lord frowned and turned to look at Luo Xiong, saying, It seems that it's not impossible. Qin Feiyong's eyes were cold as he said, The evidence is here, and you still say that I'm framing you? City lord, how much did you receive from the Ling family to protect them like this? How dare you? The city lord shouted, his eyes extremely unfriendly. What? You want to fight? Feng Chung stood in front of Qin Feiyong, his old eyes flashing with cold light. Luo Xiong and Elder Imo also released their aura, ready to fight. The martial arts hall master glanced at Ling Yunfei, his eyes flashing slightly. He looked at the city lord and laughed. Now that we have the evidence, you still speak for the Ling family. This is indeed too much. The precious treasure pavilion master said, I think so too. The city lord's heart trembled. He never expected that even the two giants, the martial arts hall and the precious treasure pavilion, would stand with Qin Feiyong. He finally understood why Qin Feiyong would let Ling Yunfei join the martial arts hall. Because once Ling Yunfei joined the martial arts hall, with his outstanding talent, the martial arts hall master would definitely protect him like a treasure. Ling Yunfei and Qin Feiyong had a good relationship. Once there was a conflict, the martial arts hall master would naturally stand with the two of them. Who would have thought a youth who wasn't even 16 years old had such terrifying scheming? Just thinking about it made his scalp numb. This kid's threat was too big. He must be killed in the cradle. Murderous intent surged in his heart. He looked at Luo Xiong and the others and said, All right, tell me. If Zhang Haoyin didn't kill him, how did he know the corpse was buried here? Qin Feiyong was so angry that he laughed and said, What a joke. When the Ling family head was slandering me, why didn't you ask him this? City Lord, do you really want to get rid of me so badly? The City Lord said, It was this City Lord who neglected this point. Feng Chung clenched his fists and said angrily, Zhang Haoyin, just tell him. Elder Imo said, That's right. If someone wants to cover the sky with one hand, he has to ask the pill hall first. The city lord's eyes darkened. He could clearly feel that the three giants of the pill hall were very unhappy with him. Qin Feiyang said, "All right, I'll tell you. You should all remember that night. After we signed the life and death agreement, we left the Ling family directly." Everyone nodded. Qin Feiyang continued, "After leaving the Ling family, I sent Ling Yunfei to the Black Bear Mountain to train. When I came back, I saw Butler Ling killing Zhao Lu and Li Qi. Out of curiosity, I followed him. I saw him carrying the two corpses and entering the Ling family. He didn't go through the main door, but sneakily climbed over the wall. This made me even more curious. So, I followed him into the Ling family and continued to follow him. In the end, I saw him coming here and burying the corpses with my own eyes." Qin Feiyang said until here. The Ling family head suddenly roared, "Impossible. I clearly told him to frame you." Qin Feiyang laughed. His lips curled into a mocking smile. The eyes of the giants instantly turned cold. Feeling the change in the atmosphere, the Ling family head immediately realized that he had said something wrong. He hurriedly explained, "City Lord, what I mean is, enough." The City Lord shouted. The Ling family head's body shook and his face turned pale. The City Lord said expressionlessly, "Not only did you kill the guards, but you also framed Jiang Haoyan. You are so vicious that you don't deserve to be a human. Now, I officially announce that the Ling family will be removed from the Black Bear City." What? The Ling family head's body and mind trembled. It was like a bolt from the blue, and his mind was buzzing. The City Lord was also helpless, because if he didn't deal with it impartially, Luo Xiong would definitely make a fuss. Once the Yin King was alarmed, his position as the City Lord would be difficult to keep. Phew, it's really refreshing. Qin Feiyang let out a long breath. There was no pity in his expression, because all of this was the Ling family's own fault. But suddenly, he frowned and said, "Ling family head, how long are you going to drag it out?" Drag it out? Ling Yunfei was stunned and instantly understood Qin Feiyang's meaning. He hurriedly shouted, "Give my mother back to me." "Give it back to you?" "Haha." The Ling family head laughed out loud as if he had gone mad. "Bastard, I'll kill you." Ling Yunfei's heart suddenly burst into a monstrous rage. He opened his hands and pounced towards the Ling family head. "Come on, I can use you to escape." The Ling family head sneered in his heart. But Qin Feiyang was quick-witted and grabbed Ling Yunfei's arm. "Calm down. You're not his opponent. He can't wait for you to rush up now, because as long as he captures you, he can use you to threaten us. At that time, not only will we not be able to save your mother, even you will die." Hearing these words, Ling Yunfei was suddenly enlightened and sobered up. However, the Ling family head's face became incomparably ferocious. He stared at Qin Feiyang and roared, "Who exactly are you? Why are you interfering in my Ling family's private affairs?" Qin Feiyang said indifferently, "I don't have any hobbies. I just like to fight for justice." Hee. The Ling family head laughed and mocked. "Unfortunately, it's too late. I'm not afraid to tell you the truth. I've already sent people to take Ling Yunfei's mother away. She has already left Black Bear City." "Bastard. I knew your words couldn't be trusted." Ling Yunfei was immediately furious, and his killing intent soared to the sky. "There is indeed a problem," Qin Feiyang whispered. "However, wanna run? How could it be so easy?" The martial arts hall master walked to Ling Yunfei's side and comforted him. "Yunfei, don't worry. I'll send people to find her immediately." "Can you find her?" Ling Yunfei was in a daze, and his eyes were filled with despair. Everyone was silent. Although their cultivation was not low, once the Ling family left Black Bear City, the sky was wide and the earth was wide. To find them was like looking for a needle in a haystack. No one was confident. "Don't worry, they can't escape," Qin Feiyang suddenly said. "And?" Everyone looked at him in bewilderment. "Zhang Laoda, Fat Lord is back." At this moment, a loud shout came from afar. Not long later, Fatso ran over breathlessly and said in admiration, "Zhang Laoda, you are really a genius. Those old farts of the Ling family really left Black Bear City with a woman." Qin Feiyang asked, "Which direction did they go?" Fatso said, "The west gate, and then went straight to the west." Qin Feiyang turned to look at Luo Xiong, but before he could speak, Luo Xiong said, "Old Feng, Old Imo, I'll have to trouble you to make a trip." Feng Cheng and Old Imo nodded, and their battle chi surged. Without touching the ground, they turned into a stream of light and quickly disappeared. At the same time, the Ling family head suddenly exploded and punched towards Qin Feiyang. He hated Qin Feiyang to the core. Chapter 83. At this moment, everyone was concerned about the matter of Ling Yunfei's mother. They were not prepared at all. They did not expect that the Ling family head would still be so stubborn and try to kill Qin Feiyang. However, it did not mean that Qin Feiyang was not prepared. Uncle Yuan had repeatedly warned him that no matter how strong or weak the enemy was, he had to go all out. Therefore, even though the Ling family head was now a prisoner, he did not let down his guard. Just as the Ling family head's fist was about to hit him, he did not hesitate to grab Ling Yunfei and use the Luo Yin steps to retreat. Because he knew that once the Ling family head failed, he would definitely attack Ling Yunfei again. The Ling family head's fist missed, but he did not give up and continued to pounce on the two. With Qin Feiyang's cultivation, even with the Luo Yin steps, his speed could not be compared to the Ling family head. If there was no one around, today, the two of them would definitely die. But don't forget, there were still a few big shots around. After Luo Xiong and the martial arts hall master reacted, they rushed towards the Ling family head at almost the same time. Cold light shot out from their eyes. Both of them were battle kings. How fast was their speed? In the blink of an eye, they grabbed the Ling family head and forcefully suppressed him. The Ling family head's face was ashen, and he was completely in despair. Now, it was impossible for anyone to help him. Even if the city lord wanted to, he did not have the guts. Qin Feiyang said in a deep voice, "City lord, how do you plan to deal with this person?" "What do you think?" the city lord asked. Qin Feiyang said, "If it were up to me, I would kill him directly and end it all." The city lord said, "This matter is not serious enough to kill. How about this? I will give the order to drive the Ling family out of Black Bear City." The Ling family head was overjoyed. As long as he did not die, there was still a chance. Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows. Drive out of Black Bear City? This was simply a joke. The city lord was obviously still protecting the Ling family. Qin Feiyang glanced at the city lord and then at the Ling family head, who was restrained by Luo Xiong and the martial arts hall master, kneeling on the ground, unable to move. This was undoubtedly a good opportunity. His eyes flashed and he said lightly, "If that's the case, I have a few words to say to the Ling family head." He strode over and whispered into the Ling family head's ear, "Do you think that with the help of the city lord, you can escape today?" Finished speaking, he took out the Chang Shui and swung it fiercely, directly cutting off the Ling family head's neck. Then, he immediately put away the Chang Shui. The speed was too fast. In addition, no one was mentally prepared. All they saw was a flash of white light, and a neat cut appeared on Ling family head's throat. Blood spurted out like a fountain. "You!" The Ling family head glared at Qin Feiyang, his eyes full of hatred. It was as if he wanted to say something, but before he could, his head tilted to one side and he died on the spot. Everyone was dumbstruck, especially the disciples of the Ling family. They were extremely nervous. The death of the family head was equivalent to the collapse of the family's pillar of support. To them, it was equivalent to a catastrophe. Boom! All of a sudden, a terrifying aura surged out like an avalanche, shocking the entire place. It was the city lord who was flipping out. After being provoked one after another, he was about to go berserk. But at the same time, Luo Xiong also released his aura and confronted the city lord. The two giants looked at each other, and their expressions gradually turned cold. "Humph." In the end, the city lord snorted, flicked his sleeves, and turned to leave angrily. He didn't dare to stay any longer, because he was afraid that he couldn't control himself and really fought with Luo Xiong. Once the city lord left, the disciples and servants of the Ling family were even more flustered. Although the treasure pavilion master had the ability to fight with Luo Xiong, he obviously didn't want to meddle in other people's business. The martial arts hall master's standpoint also changed because of Ling Yunfei. Now, who could help them? Who would be willing to help them? They all knew that today was the end of the Ling family. Luo Xiong glanced at the Ling family and said, "Let's go. We will wait outside." The group left the Ling family. Fatso went to Qin Feiyang and said with a flattering smile, "Zhang Laoda, you have to keep your word. I will definitely not treat you badly." Qin Feiyang patted Fatso's shoulder and turned to Ling Yunfei. He smiled faintly and said, "When old Feng and the others bring your mother back, you have to thank them and this fat lord." And Ling Yunfei nodded and cupped his hands. "Thank you, fat bro." Fatso waved his hand and said, "We are all brothers. No need to be so polite. But you are quite good at hiding. Not only did you deceive the Ling family for more than 10 years, but you also deceived everyone in Black Bear City." "I didn't want it to be like this," Ling Yunfei said dejectedly. Fatso walked over and put his arm around Ling Yunfei's shoulder. He laughed and said, "Brother, the beautiful life is still waiting for us to enjoy. Those unlucky things in the past, let's just treat it as a fart. Anyway, it is others who are stinking, right?" Ling Yunfei was stunned. What kind of logic was this? However, after hearing Fatso's words, his heart relaxed a lot. Qin Feiyang couldn't help but shake his head and laugh. Although Fatso was usually a bit unreliable, he was quite reliable at critical moments. "Ling Yunfei, I killed your second uncle. Do you hate me?" he suddenly asked. "Of course not. I thought that if he died in front of me, I would be more or less sad. But when he really died in front of me, I found that I couldn't feel sad at all. In fact, there was a strong sense of pleasure in my heart." Ling Yunfei said. Qin Feiyang and Fatso looked at each other. How deep was his resentment? "I'm afraid that since childhood, he has never lived a peaceful life." "My lords, who killed Zhao Lu and Li Seven? Why did the city lord look so angry just now?" As soon as Qin Feiyang and the others walked out of the Ling residence, the family heads surrounded them, their eyes full of surprise. Luo Xiong said, "It was the Ling family head who instigated Butler Ling to kill them, in order to frame Zhang Haoyan." The crowd was in an uproar. Fatso stepped forward and shouted, "By the way, let me tell you that the Ling family head is dead. The city lord personally ordered that the Ling family will be removed from Black Bear City from now on." As soon as the news came out, it immediately exploded. In just a few hundred breaths, it spread to every corner of Black Bear City, and everyone knew about it. Some were shocked. Some were happy. Of course, the Zhang family and the Mu family were happy, because the destruction of the Ling family was equivalent to one less strong competitor. From then on, the situation in Black Bear City was no longer a tripartite. The most important thing was that without the Ling family, they would get more benefits. As for the patriarchs of the small families, they were probably thinking about how to rise up and become the third big family after the Ling family. An hour later, Feng Cheng and Elder Imo finally returned. Behind them, there was a woman. Her hair was disheveled, her face was pale, and she was extremely haggard. Her clothes were also extremely dirty. She looked as if she had just walked out of a garbage dump, and her body was emitting a foul smell. Moreover, on her wrists and ankles, there were 2 dark iron chains, as thick as a baby's arm. As she walked, she kept making clanging sounds. The 2 iron chains were very heavy, and every step she took was very difficult. "Mother!" Ling Yunfei's body trembled, and he looked at the woman without blinking. In an instant, tears streamed down his face, and his heart ached. Not to mention Ling Yunfei, even Qin Feiyang, Luo Xiong, and the others couldn't help but feel sour in their hearts. "Feier." When the woman saw Ling Yunfei as well, she stopped in her tracks and called out softly. Her tears also fell uncontrollably. "Mother!" Ling Yunfei roared and ran forward hurriedly, hugging the woman and crying bitterly. Luo Xiong asked, "Old Feng, Old Imo, why didn't you help her remove the iron chains on her?" Feng Cheng smiled. "It's better to leave this matter to her son." Elder Imo had a smile on his face as well. Qin Feiyang asked in confusion, "Elders, where are the elders of the Ling family?" Feng Cheng said, "We let them go." "Let them go." Qin Feiyang's expression changed. Those elders were all martial ancestor realm cultivators. This was akin to letting the tiger return to the mountain. Feng Cheng waved his hands indifferently and said, "Don't worry, I've already taught them a lesson. I believe they won't dare to find trouble with you and Ling Yunfei again." "I hope so," Qin Feiyang mumbled. The destruction of the Ling family was caused by him. The head of the Ling family was also killed by him. He didn't believe that those elders would give up. But since they had already let them go, what else can they do? They can only be careful in the future. Luo Xiong smiled. "Zhang Haoyan, let's go and give the mother and son a chance to be alone." Qin Feiyang nodded. Although there are many doubts in his heart, it's obviously not the time to ask. After Qin Feiyang and others left, the others also dispersed. Zhang family head looked at the gate of the Ling family. His eyes flashed with an inexplicable light. He walked to Mu family head and whispered, "I have something to discuss with you." Mu family head looked at him with some surprise and said, "It just so happens that I have something to discuss with you." The two family heads mixed in the crowd and quickly left. Soon, only the martial arts hall master and Ling Yunfei's mother and son were left. The martial arts hall master stepped forward and smiled. "Yunfei, I believe your mother is tired. Let's go back to the martial arts hall and let your mother take a hot bath and relax. You can talk slowly." "Okay." Ling Yunfei nodded and turned his head to look around. He was slightly stunned and asked, "Where are Zhang Haoyan and the others?" The martial arts hall master said, "They left first." Ling Yunfei said anxiously, "I haven't thanked them properly. How can they leave? There will be plenty of time in the future. Why are you in a hurry?" The martial arts hall master shook his head and smiled. "That's true." Ling Yunfei nodded and smiled. He borrowed a dagger from the martial arts hall master. After cutting the two iron chains, he supported the woman and told her what happened these days. Then, he followed the martial arts hall master to the Dan Hall. At the same time, the guards of the City Lord Mansion went to the major city gates and posted a notice. The content was roughly, "The Ling family spread rumors and caused trouble. From today onwards, the Ling family will be removed from the Black Bear City. All the children of the Ling family will be ordered to leave the Black Bear City before dawn tomorrow." Once this notice was posted, the destruction of the Ling family became a foregone conclusion. No one could change it. But in the City Lord Mansion, the City Lord summoned two guards. These two people were his confidants. "Leave the city immediately. No matter what, you have to find the elders of the Ling family. After you find them, don't tell anyone. Don't bring them back. Temporarily settle them in the nearby mountains and wait for my next order." The City Lord ordered, and the two immediately left. "Little bastard, you think it's over? Let me tell you, it's still too early." Chapter 84. On the way back to the Pill Palace, Feng Cheng rubbed Qin Feiyang's head and asked curiously, "Why are you so smart?" "What do you mean?" Qin Feiyang was stunned and looked at him in confusion. At that time, we all saw the elders of the Ling family leaving first. However, we didn't expect that they were planning to escape with Ling Yunfei's mother. Not only did you think of that, you even asked Fatso to follow them. I really want to open your head and see what's inside. As Feng Cheng spoke, he stared at Qin Feiyang's head, his eyes shining. Qin Feiyang couldn't help but feel numb. He hurriedly took a few steps to the side. Then, he laughed dryly and said, "I'm just a blind cat running into a dead mouse. I'm just lucky. Don't talk nonsense with me." Feng Cheng stared at him and said, "Tell me honestly, did you kill Zhao Lu and the others?" Qin Feiyang said, "I swear that it was Butler Ling who killed them." This was the truth. There was no need to feel guilty. Feng Cheng frowned and said, "Why did that Ling guy say that the bodies were buried outside of the Pill Palace?" Qin Feiyang briefly explained what happened that night. "Haha, so that's how it is. Interesting. Really interesting. Brat, I realize that I like you more and more. Why don't you be my disciple?" Feng Cheng laughed and said, Luo Xiong and Elder Imo both looked at Feng Cheng with disdain. He had level 9 mental power. He even concocted a supreme grade elixir on his first try. With such talent, you're worthy to be his master? Before you open your mouth, can you take a piss and look at yourself in the mirror? What kind of virtue are you? You're really shameless. Although the two of them didn't say it out loud, anyone who understood would be able to read their eyes. However, Feng Cheng wasn't embarrassed at all. He said confidently, "No matter what, I am the most experienced elder of the Pill Palace. I am more than qualified to teach a newbie like him. All right then, why don't you go and refine a top-grade pill for me to see? If you can't refine it, then stop talking nonsense. Don't embarrass yourself here," Elder Emo said mercilessly. Feng Cheng was furious on the spot. Seeing that a quarrel was about to break out, Luo Xiong's face darkened. He shouted, "Enough, enough! Don't you see that there are still two disciples here? Quarreling here and there. What a scandal!" Fatso hurriedly said, "I didn't hear anything." Qin Feiyang also said seriously, "I didn't see anything either. But I don't care if he's a disciple, but if he can be my grandson-in-law, I can seriously consider it." Grandson-in-law? Luo Xiong and the other man were taken aback. Their eyes immediately turned playful. Feng Cheng was also taken aback. Then, he became furious and shouted, "Bastard! You're making fun of my granddaughter again. See if I don't teach you a lesson today." TSK, looking at your face, your granddaughter probably isn't that good-looking either. I don't even like her. After Qin Feiyang finished speaking, he hurriedly ran away. My granddaughter isn't that good-looking? Feng Cheng was stunned for a moment. Then he roared in exasperation, "Brat, stop right there." Luo Xiong hurriedly grabbed him and said angrily, "You're already so old, yet you're still causing trouble. Don't you feel ashamed?" He's already lost all his face. Elder Emo suddenly stabbed him again, causing Feng Cheng to blow his beard and glare. He was extremely angry. Seeing that the situation wasn't good, Fatso also hurriedly ran away. After catching up to Qin Feiyang, he looked at Qin Feiyang with a strange expression and asked, "Jiang Laoda, have you seen Elder Feng's granddaughter?" "No." Qin Feiyang shook his head and asked confusedly, "Why do you ask?" "Nothing, nothing." Fatso waved his hand, but there was a trace of ridicule in his eyes. He secretly laughed and said, "When you see her in person, you'll know what it means to be shocking." Back at the pill hall, Qin Feiyang directly went to the pill fire hall and entered the number 4 alchemy room. But he didn't refine any pills. He went to the ancient castle and started to copy the 4th stroke of the calligraphy. To copy the 3rd stroke, he used 8,000 chi amassing pills. If there were no accidents, the 4th stroke should cost 32,000 chi amassing pills. Luckily, he didn't lack chi amassing pills now. Late at night, a group of black-clothed people broke into the Ling family. They were powerful, and their methods were vicious. They were like grim reapers from hell, crazily reaping lives. None of the disciples and servants survived. During the entire process, not a single scream was heard. In the end, this group of black-clothed people even took away all of the Ling family's treasures and resources. In other words, the Ling family only had a dozen elders, and Ling Yin left. Without a doubt, the next day, this incident caused a huge uproar. Everyone was guessing who was so vicious. They actually massacred the Ling family in one night. After the city lord heard the news, there was no doubt that he was furious. He ordered people to investigate thoroughly. The first person they thought of was Qin Feiyang, because in the entire Black Bear City, only Qin Feiyang had the deepest grudge with the Ling family. But soon, Luo Xiong stood up and helped Qin Feiyang to clarify. Everyone began to suspect Ling Yunfei again. The martial arts hall master also stood up and helped Ling Yunfei to clarify. If it wasn't Qin Feiyang or Ling Yunfei, then who could it be? No one could think of a third person. As time passed, this matter didn't fade away. Instead, it continued to ferment and become more and more serious. But the culprit couldn't be found. At the same time, various small families also began to fish in troubled waters, wanting to soar into the sky and become the 3rd largest family. But how could the Mu family and the Jiang family let them succeed? Full suppression. The situation in Black Bear City was getting more and more chaotic by the day. Undercurrents were surging, open strife and covert fighting. Every day, there were people disappearing for no reason. On this day, Cheng Yi, Ji Jin, Lu Hong, and Ling Yin were finally released from the pig cage. After a month of contamination, without exception, The four of them were covered in a foul stench. Anyone who met them would pinch their noses and take a detour. The four of them held their hands, lowered their heads, and silently returned to their residence with a heart full of resentment. They washed and scrubbed until the stench on their bodies was completely washed away. Only then did they dare to show their faces in front of others. Ling Yin immediately knew that the Ling family was massacred. A ball of anger immediately burned in his heart. Cheng Yi and the other two were also furious when they knew that the alchemy room was occupied. They swore silently in their hearts. They must pay back 100 times and wash away their shame. On the same day, a small piece of news spread among the disciples of the Pill Hall. Have you heard? Jiang Haoyin and Elder Feng's granddaughter are engaged. He's just a person who got in through connections. He didn't rely on his own ability. That's right. He could get the right to use Alchemy Room number 4 because of Elder Feng's special care. I thought he was very capable. Turns out he's just a pretty boy who relies on women. This kind of pretentious person is really disgusting. For a moment, discussions were everywhere in the Pill Hall. The news quickly reached Feng Cheng's ears. He was furious on the spot. He immediately went to the Pill Fire Hall. Jiang Haoyin, get out here. He stood outside Alchemy Room number 4 and shouted angrily. Qin Feiyang frowned. Why did Feng Cheng come to him? He had already copied half of the 4th stroke. He wanted to copy it all at once. But now, it seemed that he could only stop here temporarily. After closing the iron book, he appeared in the alchemy room with a thought. At this moment, Feng Cheng lost his patience. He directly smashed open the stone door and walked in angrily. Seeing this, Qin Feiyang asked suspiciously, Elder Feng, who made you so angry? Feng Cheng said with a sullen face, You still have the nerve to ask? Tell me, what's going on with the rumors outside? Gossips? Qin Feiyang frowned. Feng Cheng said angrily, Now everyone is talking about the engagement between you and my granddaughter. You dare to say that this has nothing to do with you? Engagement? Qin Feiyang was stunned. He was a little confused. But suddenly, he remembered. Last time in the restaurant, he did talk about this with Cheng Yi. It was just that he didn't expect Cheng Yi to make a fuss about this. Elder Feng, listen to my explanation. Qin Feiyang smiled bitterly. After he closed the stone door, he began to narrate what had happened in detail. After Elder Feng heard this, he frowned and said, Even so, you shouldn't talk nonsense. Qin Feiyang nodded and said, Yes, yes, yes. It's my fault. I apologize to you. I apologize to your granddaughter. If an apology is useful, what's the use of the law? My granddaughter is still a virgin. Do you know how much of an impact you've had on her after hearing what you've said? Kid, you must give me a satisfactory answer as soon as possible. Otherwise, you'll get it. Feng Cheng glared at him fiercely, then turned around and left. Chapter 85. Qin Feiyang walked out of the alchemy room. Feng Cheng's roar alarmed everyone in the Pill Fire Palace. Everyone walked out of the alchemy room. Therefore, the left and right sides of the corridor were crowded. Moreover, seeing Qin Feiyang come out, everyone looked at him with disdain. Make way. Fatso pushed through the crowd and walked to Qin Feiyang, whispering, There are a few things I want to talk to you about. Let's go to the alchemy room first. Qin Feiyang nodded. The two entered the alchemy room and closed the stone door. Fatso glanced at the alchemy furnace and said in surprise, There's no medicinal fragrance or high temperature. You didn't refine pills this month? Qin Feiyang's heart skipped a beat. Fatso was really meticulous. I was cultivating, he answered casually and asked, What do you want to say? Yes, yes, yes. Let's get down to business. Just a month ago, on the night we left the Ling family was massacred. Fatso said, What? Qin Feiyang turned pale with fright and asked, Who was the real murderer? Fatso shook his head. We haven't found the murderer yet, but they're all suspecting you. Suspecting me? Qin Feiyang frowned. That's right. Although the temple master cleared your name in time, and we all know that you've been in the alchemy room this month, others don't know. Since we can't find the murderer, everyone is starting to suspect you. And there are rumors that you and Ling Yunfei joined hands and massacred the Ling family, Fatso said. Nonsense. Qin Feiyang was furious. Even an idiot would know that he and Ling Yunfei were not capable of massacring the Ling family. It's no use getting angry. The most important thing now is to find the murderer. Otherwise, if this continues, it'll be bad for you, Fatso said in a low voice. Qin Feiyang's heart sank. Who was it that was causing trouble in the dark? Could it be that there was a premeditated plan to frame him? No. If they really wanted to frame him, the real culprit would definitely be at the scene and leave some clues or evidence about him. This way, when the people from the City Lord's mansion went to investigate the scene and saw the evidence, they would definitely come to the pill hall immediately to ask him. However, until now, no one had come to look for him. From this, it could be seen that this was not a conspiracy against him. Could it be revenge? Qin Feiyang asked, Fatso, does the Ling family have any enemies outside? I've never heard of that. However, it can't be someone from the outside. After all, the 4 city gates are guarded day and night. If a large number of people were to enter Black Bear City, it would be impossible for nothing to happen that night. If we really want to talk about enmity, I'm afraid the Jiang family and the Mu family have the deepest hatred for the Ling family. Fatty's analysis was clear and logical. When the Jiang family and the Mu family were mentioned, the two of them looked at each other at the same time. Their eyes were shining. Fatso shook his head again and said, No, the City Lord has already given the order to chase the Ling family out of Black Bear City. The Jiang and Mu families don't need to massacre the Ling family. Qin Feiyang nodded. He also felt that it was reasonable. But suddenly, he thought of something and asked, What if they are worried that the Ling family will rise from the ashes? What do you mean? Fatso was surprised. Qin Feiyang said, Everyone knows that the City Lord is biased towards the Ling family. We can't rule out the possibility that they will return to Black Bear City one day. The patriarchs of the Jiang and Mu families aren't idiots. It's impossible for them not to see through this. Fatso continued, So, they took this opportunity to eliminate the Ling family? Qin Feiyang nodded. All the disputes in this world were basically inseparable from the word benefit. For benefits, some people could turn against each other. Some even disown their own family. The Jiang family, the Mu family, and the Ling family had been fighting openly and secretly for so many years, scheming to destroy each other. Now that there was such a good opportunity, how could they let it go so easily? Not to mention, in the entire Black Bear City, other than the Pill Hall, the Martial Arts Hall, and the Treasure Pavilion, only the Jiang family and the Mu family had the ability to massacre the Ling family. After pondering for a while, Qin Feiyang said, Fatso, do me another favor. Fatso said with a sneaky smile, As long as there are benefits, not to mention one, even if it's 10, Fat Lord will do it. Qin Feiyang said, Help me spy on the Jiang family and the Mu family. Fatso immediately frowned. Qin Feiyang said with a flattering tone, I don't dare to say for others, but for you, Fat Lord, I believe that with your brain, you will definitely be able to handle it easily. Fatso rolled his eyes and said helplessly, Although I know you are flattering Fat Lord, there is no other way. Who told the Fat Lord to like this? Okay, I will leave this matter to the Fat Lord. After saying that, Fatso was about to leave, but suddenly he slapped his head and said angrily, Look at my memory, there is another thing. 1 month later, the Danwang Hall will send people to Black Bear City. What are they coming for? Qin Feiyang was puzzled. Of course, they are coming to select talents. It is said that there are only 3 spots in total. One of them is a predetermined spot. This spot was originally given to Cheng Yi, but now that you are here, he will definitely not get it. So, you have to be careful. He may find a way to get rid of you, the stumbling block. Fatso warned. Qin Feiyang frowned and asked puzzledly, They are all entering the Danwang Hall. Is there a difference between the predetermined spot and the other 2 spots? Of course there is a difference. The holder of the predetermined spot can refine pills as soon as he enters the Danwang Hall. Moreover, whether it is the alchemy room, the residence, or the pill recipe, they will all receive special care. And the holder of the other 2 spots, after entering the Danwang Hall, has to work as a servant in the Danwang Hall for a year. When the time is up, they can enter the alchemy room to refine pills. Fatso said. The difference is so big? Qin Feiyang frowned. Wasn't being a servant the same as wasting a year's time? Not to mention wasting time. He would also have to suffer the supercilious eyes and humiliation of others all day long. It seemed that he really had to get this predetermined spot. Qin Feiyang asked, "Where is Chengyi now?" At the mention of this, Fatso couldn't help but laugh mischievously. After he came out of the pig cage and learned that this alchemy room was occupied by you, he immediately went to find the hall master to reason with him. Guess what happened in the end? Don't keep me in suspense. Tell me quickly. Qin Feiyang urged. Originally, the hall master planned to give him the alchemy room number 6 after he came out. In the end, after he caused such a ruckus, not only was he fiercely reprimanded by the hall master, but he was also sent to the alchemy room 110 to stay there. Fatso said, 110? Isn't that the alchemy room I used when I first came here? Qin Feiyang was stunned. Yeah, that's the worst alchemy room. The hall master gave him the alchemy room. It's more painful than killing him. The most important thing is that Ling Yin, Ji Jin, and Lu Hong were all given a pretty good alchemy room. You didn't see how ugly his face was when he entered the alchemy room 110. Fatso laughed gloatingly, and the fat all over his body was trembling. If a person doesn't know what's good for him, it's useless no matter how talented he is. Qin Feiyang shook his head and sneered. However, it's said that he's preparing to fight for the predetermined quota, so he probably won't show up in a short time. Fatso said, Then shouldn't we kill him now? Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows. What? Fatso was shocked and said, You still want to kill him? For those who don't change their nature, only by killing him can we eliminate all future troubles. When he comes out, inform me as soon as possible. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed coldly. No problem. Fatso hesitated for a while and finally nodded. Then he took out a letter from his arms and threw it to Qin Feiyang, saying, Ling Yunfei asked Fat Lord to give this to you this morning. You're welcome. After that, Fatso left the alchemy room. Qin Feiyang opened the letter and read it carefully. Then he put the letter into his arms and entered the castle to continue the 4th stroke. In the evening, he appeared in the alchemy room again and then walked out of the Pill Fire Palace. Under countless disdainful gazes, he left the Pill Fire Palace and went to the East City Gate. He glanced at the mountain range in front of him and locked his eyes on a small forest. Then, he strode over to them. A moment later, Qin Feiyang entered the small forest and walked towards the depths of the forest. About a few hundred breaths later, he walked out of the forest and came to a river. Through the moonlight, he could clearly see a huge black rock on the other side of the river. Ling Yunfei stood on the huge rock. You're finally here. Ling Yunfei smiled. Qin Feiyang jumped across the river and landed on the huge rock. He asked, How is Auntie? Ling Yunfei said, In the first few days, she was still a little lonely and didn't like to talk much. But now she's much better. She even said that she must find a time to treat you to a meal to thank you properly. That's good. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, Then why did you ask me to come here today? I asked you out? Ling Yunfei was slightly stunned and asked suspiciously, Didn't you ask me out? Me? Qin Feiyang was also stunned. He frowned and said, Didn't you ask Fatso to bring me a letter and ask me to come here to meet you? No. You were the one who asked someone to bring me a letter. I still have this letter. Ling Yunfei took out a letter from his arms and opened it. He handed it to Qin Feiyang and said, Look, it's written clearly. Qin Feiyang looked at it and was immediately surprised. He also hurriedly took out the letter. The two pieces of letter were compared. The handwriting was exactly the same. Obviously, it was from the same person. And even the content was exactly the same. In the evening, outside the East City Gate, on the riverbank at the end of the grove. How could this be? Looking at the two pieces of letter, Ling Yunfei was very surprised. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed. Suddenly, his face changed greatly and he growled, Oh no, we've been fooled. This is a killing trap. Let's go. A killing trap? Ling Yunfei's body trembled. The two quickly turned around and looked at the opposite bank. They were about to jump over. Dong! But at this moment, several black shadows rushed out of the river, stirring up waves of several meters high as they pounced towards Qin Feiyang and Qin Yu. Retreat! Qin Feiyang shouted. The two retreated from the boulder at the same time. Bang! As soon as they landed on the ground, the boulder in front of them was torn apart with a loud bang. Pieces of gravel of different sizes flew toward them. Qin Feiyang and Li Tianlan were the first to bear the brunt. Chapter 86. The two of them grimaced in pain, especially the place where they were hit by the gravel. It was a bloody mess. Fresh blood flowed out of the wound. In an instant, they were covered in blood. Whoosh! The few black figures landed on the riverbank one after another. Through the moonlight, they could clearly see their true faces and the murderous intent in their eyes. It's you guys. Qin Feiyang and Lin Haoyan's expressions changed. These people were the elders of the Ling clan. Run! Qin Feiyang shouted in a low voice. He turned around and got up. Ignoring the injuries on his body, he ran towards the forest behind him. But, after running a few steps, he stopped and looked ahead. His pupils constricted, because there were a few black figures in the forest ahead. At the same time, a few people walked out from the left and right. They were also the elders of the Ling clan. There were a total of 13 people. Ling Yunfei glanced at the 13 people and his face was pale. He asked, Zhang Haoyan, what do we do now? Qin Feiyang said, how strong are they? Ling Yunfei said in a low voice, 11 one-star martial grandmasters and 2 two-star martial grandmasters. Qin Feiyang's heart sank. A total of 13 martial grandmasters. With his and Ling Yunfei's strength, they had no chance of winning. Why don't you guys run? Hurry, continue. Why aren't you running? Let me tell you, you won't be able to escape today. The 13 people approached step by step and surrounded the two of them in the middle. They had sinister smiles on their faces. Qin Feiyang said in a low voice, to be able to deliver the letter to us. You guys are really resourceful. One of them sneered. It's all thanks to the city lord's help. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been able to deliver the letter to you. Qin Feiyang and Lin Haoyan's eyes were filled with murderous intent. Don't talk nonsense. Another elder hurriedly shouted, what are you afraid of? They're going to die soon. It's okay to let them know. That person was disdainful. That's right. We have so many people. I don't believe that they can escape. Another person nodded in agreement. Qin Feiyang asked, are you the ones who massacred the Ling clan? Bullshit. We are the elders of the Ling family. Will we massacre the Ling family? It was all done by the Jiang family and the Mu family. The city lord has already found out. It's just that the situation in Black Bear City is too chaotic right now, so he didn't announce it. After we kill all of you, we will begin our revenge. We will make the Jiang and Mu families die without any descendants to repay this debt of blood. The 13 of them were filled with killing intent. It really is them. Qin Feiyang mumbled in disdain. I don't know about the Mu clan, but the Jiang clan is backed by the chief pavilion lord of the county of Yin. Would you dare to make a move against the Jiang clan? Those who have nothing to lose are not afraid of those who wear shoes. The Ling clan is already gone. At worst, we'll just fight to the death. Don't waste your breath with him. Maybe he's stalling for time. Attack. The 13 of them sped up at the same time. Their bodies were filled with killing intent, and their eyes were filled with ferocious light. No matter how powerful the enemy is, we can't just sit there and wait for death. Follow me closely. Qin Feiyang let out a low roar and actually took the initiative to meet one of them. Ling Yunfei was shocked and hurriedly followed him. Because there was no other choice now. All of their escape routes had been blocked. They could only desperately tear open an opening. You overestimate yourself. That person sneered. As he approached, he raised his arm and slapped Qin Feiyang. True qi swept in all directions. However, Qin Feiyang did not stop. Instead, he charged even more fiercely. You have a death wish. That person smiled brightly. But suddenly, Qin Feiyang took a step forward, and the palm passed through his chest. At this moment, a cold light flashed in his eyes. He suddenly raised his arm and swung it down with all his might. A white divine light cut through the night sky. That person's right shoulder suddenly spurted blood. The next moment, his entire arm fell from his shoulder and fell to the ground. That person was stunned at first. When the intense pain spread throughout his body, he could not help but howl in pain. Taking advantage of the opportunity, Qin Feiyang and Ling Yunfei ran past that person and fled into the forest without looking back. The sudden turn of events caused the other 12 people to be dumbfounded. That person shouted, "What are you doing? Hurry up and chase. Be careful of the sharp weapon in his hand." The 12 people suddenly came back to their senses and immediately entered the forest, chasing after Qin Feiyang and Ling Yunfei. Ling Yunfei glanced behind and said in a deep voice, "They are coming. With our speed, they will catch up with us in at most 5 breaths." The two of them used the gathering smoke steps and returning yuan steps. They were as fast as lightning, and their speed had reached the extreme. But compared to a martial ancestor, their speed was comparable to a snail. Qin Feiyang glanced ahead. Although it was a forest, there was no place to hide. What should we do? Can we only hide in the castle? He struggled in his heart. Although he trusted Ling Yunfei a lot now, he still didn't want anyone to know about the ancient castle. Gotcha! Suddenly, the two of them lost their footing, and their bodies fell straight down. It turned out that there was a deep pit here. Because it was night, they could not see the bottom. It should be a trap set by the hunters when they were hunting the beasts. Damn it! Why are we so unlucky? Ling Yunfei cursed. They were already at the end of the road, but they did not expect to fall into a trap. For the two of them, it was undoubtedly worse. There is no other way. We can only go to the castle. No. Why is there an echo? Qin Feiyang was surprised. Ling Yunfei's angry curses actually reverberated below and didn't disperse for a long time. If it was just a trap, at most a few meters deep, such a situation would definitely not occur. It was very likely that there was an underground passage down here. Bang bang. The two of them landed at the bottom almost at the same time. It was about a dozen meters deep. Such a height could not cause any damage to them. They are below. Go down. This should be a trap. They can't run away. At the top of the cave, there was a series of words. Following closely, Qin Feiyang and Ling Yunfei felt that someone had jumped down. Is there a match? Qin Feiyang hurriedly said. There was another echo. It was too dark inside. One couldn't even see one's fingers. It was impossible to distinguish north from south. Yes, Ling Yunfei responded and took out a match from his arms. After burning it, the place suddenly lit up. The two of them instantly noticed that there was a round, dark hole on the left. It was almost the size of a dustpan. They had to bend down to go in. Looking up, they saw an old man falling down quickly. Quick, 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 Qin Feiyang urged. The two of them bent down and entered the dark hole one after the other. They ran into the depths without looking back. About dozens of meters deep. Ling Yunfei frowned. Zhang Haoyin, why do I feel that something is wrong? Qin Feiyang said, I have the same feeling. Dark passages are generally square, but why is this one circular? It doesn't seem to be man-made. Little beast, let's see where you can escape to. At this time, there was a sneer behind them. They didn't need to look back to know that the 12 elders had followed them. They're really haunting us. Ling Yunfei cursed secretly. And, do you smell it? There seems to be a fishy smell? Qin Feiyang suddenly said. Fishy smell? Ling Yunfei was stunned. He sniffed hard and frowned. There really is a fishy smell. Qin Feiyang said, I think we might. What? Ling Yunfei asked. Qin Feiyang swallowed his saliva and said, This is probably a snake cave. Hearing this, Ling Yunfei's hair stood on end. An uncontrollable chill surged in his heart. If this was really a snake cave, one could imagine how long and thick that snake was. Hiss. Suddenly, a hissing sound came from the depths of the dark hole. Qin Feiyang and Zhang Haoyin's bodies stiffened and their scalps exploded. If this wasn't a snake cave, what was it? Suddenly, the ground shook slightly. It seemed that something was crawling towards them. There was an unknown giant python in front of them and 12 martial grandmasters behind them. What should they do? They thought that there was a way out, but they didn't expect it to be a dead end. At the same time, the 12 elders of the Ling family also heard the movement. They stopped and looked ahead in surprise. Ling Yunfei suddenly turned around and shouted to the 12 people, "This is a snake cave. Get out!" Snake cave. A snake cave as big as a dustpan. This snake is at least 1 meter thick. Quick, quick, get out. The 12 people turned pale with fright and hurriedly turned back. If it was outside, they wouldn't be afraid. But here, even walking had to bend down, let alone fighting with the giant python. Seeing this, Ling Yunfei looked at Qin Feiyong and said, "Let's go." "We can't go out." Qin Feiyong grabbed him. "If we don't go out, we'll die." Ling Yunfei shouted in a low voice, "If you were them, what would you do?" Qin Feiyong asked while looking at the walls on both sides. Ling Yunfei said without hesitation, "If I were them, after leaving the snake cave, I would block the entrance." Speaking of this, Ling Yunfei suddenly realized, that's right. After the 12 people went out, they would definitely block the entrance and not let them leave the snake cave. At that time, he and Qin Feiyong would only be swallowed alive by the giant python. Boom. At this moment, at the entrance of the snake cave, there was a loud explosion. Accompanied by a rumbling sound, the entrance of the cave was tightly blocked. They really did plan to do so. Ling Yunfei's face was pale. Bang. Suddenly, another loud explosion came from the side. Ling Yunfei was shocked and hurriedly looked over. He saw Qin Feiyong punch the wall on the left, and a 2 to 3 meter black hole instantly appeared. "What are you doing?" Ling Yunfei was surprised. Qin Feiyong grabbed the fire starter from his hand and said, "Nonsense. Of course it's to make a shelter. Go in." Ling Yunfei looked at him suspiciously and hurriedly entered the black hole. Qin Feiyong walked back for a distance, inserted the fire starter into the ground, and then hurriedly entered the dark hole. He bent his waist and poked his head out, looking into the depths of the dark passage. Seeing this, Ling Yunfei frowned and said, "Are you sure this is a shelter?" "To be exact, this is an ambush point." Qin Feiyong whispered, "Ambush point." Ling Yunfei was shocked. The ground shook more and more violently. "It's coming." Qin Feiyong's eyes focused. A huge snake head came into his sight. It was as big as 2 wash basins. A pair of long and narrow snake eyes, under the weak light, were glowing with a gloomy light. On top of its head, there was a horn as thick as an arm. Single-horned giant python. Qin Feiyong's body and mind tightened. He had seen this kind of giant python in the capital before. It was very terrifying. The venom could kill in an instant. That horn was dozens of times harder than black iron. It was indestructible. Chapter 87. Ling Yunfei poked his head out to take a look and was scared out of his wits. He hurriedly grabbed Qin Feiyong's wrist and said in a low voice, "You're no match for it. Don't be rash." "Let go." Qin Feiyong shouted in a low voice. Although the unicorn python was terrifying, the chang shui in his hand was enough to tear apart its defense. Ling Yunfei frowned and let go of his hand. He simply took out a black dagger from his chinkuan bag and waited. "Don't interfere," Qin Feiyong whispered. His voice was so weak that only the two of them could hear it. Boom. Swish. The unicorn python was very fast. The fire starter in front of it attracted its attention. Therefore, when it passed by the deep pit, it did not notice Qin Feiyong and Ling Yunfei. At this moment, Qin Feiyong was like a cheetah. He rushed out of the deep pit like lightning and pounced on the unicorn python's body. His big hand slammed down. The chang shui radiated a sharp light. Clang. With sparks flying, it broke through the unicorn python's scales and sank into the python's 7 inches. Hiss. The unicorn python's pupils suddenly hissed. Its huge body rolled crazily in the cave. The snake cave was only the size of a dustpan. The space was too small. Qin Feiyong could not avoid it. He could only hold onto the chang shui tightly with one hand and a snake scale with the other, to prevent his body from falling out. Because if he fell down, he would definitely be crushed to death by the unicorn python's huge body. Bang! Bang! The unicorn python rampaged in the cave. The entire snake cave was shaking violently, and some places had already begun to collapse. Even the ground above was experiencing an earthquake. The 12 elders of the Ling family all sneered when they sensed the movement underground. The earthquake lasted for hundreds of breaths before it gradually calmed down. Inside the snake cave, the fire starter had already been extinguished. It was pitch black. Zhang Haoyan, where are you? Ling Yunfei's worried voice sounded in the darkness. I'm here. Qin Feiyang's voice sounded, but it was weak and powerless. He had heard of it. Ling Yunfei was even more worried. He hastily reached into his bosom and muttered, "Luckily, there's still a match." He took out a match and blew on it. The place immediately lit up. Looking at the scene in front of him, Ling Yunfei was so shocked that he couldn't speak for a long time. A bloody snake body took up half of the snake cave. The smell of blood was pungent. Both sides of his body were piled with gravel and mud. As a result, the space here became even narrower, making it impossible to walk around. He could only crawl forward. "Come and help me." Qin Feiyang's weak voice sounded again. Ling Yunfei quivered. He hastily crouched down. With one hand holding the torch and the other holding the snake scales, he crawled along the snake's body. There was a lot of gravel in front of him, and it was very difficult for him to climb. "Where are you?" He couldn't help but ask anxiously when he didn't see Qin Feiyang for a while. "Here." Qin Feiyang's voice came from a pile of rocks in front of him. Ling Yunfei quickly crawled over, inserted the torch aside, moved his hands together, moved the rocks, and dug up the mud. After a while, Qin Feiyang appeared in his sight. But at this moment, not only was his face covered with dust, but his body was also covered with cuts and bruises. Although he had been lying on the python's body, as the python rolled, he kept crashing into the walls of the snake cave. If it weren't for his strong willpower, gritting his teeth and persevering, he would have let go and been crushed to death by the python's body. Ling Yunfei reached out to pull him. Qin Feiyang hurriedly said, "Don't move. My legs seem to be broken." "What should I do?" Ling Yunfei was burning with anxiety when he heard this. Qin Feiyang said, "Move aside. I'll do it myself." Ling Yunfei hurriedly retreated 2 meters. Qin Feiyang grabbed the scales and exerted force with both hands. A heart-wrenching pain suddenly came from his legs, making him break out in a cold sweat. But he gritted his teeth and crawled out with difficulty. At this time, he was already convulsing from the pain. Ling Yunfei hurriedly crawled over, took out a bone-continuing pill and a healing pill, and fed Qin Feiyang. Medicinal pills were powerful. Soon after, the pain began to gradually disappear. Looking at Qin Feiyang with a face full of fear, Ling Yunfei rolled his eyes and said, "This time, you were really too impulsive. It's lucky to be able to keep your life." "Impulsive?" Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "The entrance of the cave is blocked. If we don't kill it, we will be swallowed alive by it sooner or later." Yes. What you said is reasonable," Ling Yunfei said helplessly. However, he sincerely admired Qin Feiyang. At first, when he was ambushed by the Ling family elders, he was almost desperate. But this person was not afraid in the face of danger and took him to tear open a gap. When he fell into the snake cave, he only knew how to curse, but this person calmly judged that there was a secret passage underground. When he encountered the single-horned giant python, his first thought was to escape, but Qin Feiyang launched a counterattack in a short time and successfully killed the giant python. This kind of temperament really left others in the dust. "It seems that I still need to sharpen myself," Ling Yunfei secretly muttered and asked, "What do we do next?" Qin Feiyang pondered for a moment, pointed to Chang Shui that was still stuck in the giant python's 7 inches, and said, "Use that dagger to cut off the giant python's horn, and then collect the venom. The horn and venom are indeed good treasures, but can your dagger cut off the horn?" Ling Yunfei pulled out Chang Shui with a trace of doubt on his face. "You will know when you try." Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. Ling Yunfei climbed onto the snake's head and waved hard. With a clang, the horn was immediately cut off from the root. So sharp, Ling Yunfei was stunned. There was no resistance at all. It felt as easy as cutting off a strand of hair. so he has something to rely on. Only now did he understand that Qin Feiyang was not impulsive, but confident. Then, jumping down from the snake's head, he used a sharp stone to pry open the giant python's bloody mouth, took out a jade bottle, and carefully collected the venom. Qin Feiyang had been paying attention to the changes in Ling Yunfei's expression. He let Ling Yunfei use Chang Shui to test whether Ling Yunfei would be greedy. As a result, Ling Yunfei did not let him down. Although he was very surprised, there was no greed in his expression. After a while, Ling Yunfei climbed over and handed the Chang Shui, the horn, and the venom to Qin Feiyang. After keeping the Chang Shui and the horn in the Qinkuan bag, Qin Feiyang sized up the venom, his eyes flickering. The venom was almost transparent and was more than half a bottle. Don't underestimate this venom. Even a martial grandmaster could be poisoned to death. Suddenly, his eyes flashed coldly as he looked at Ling Yunfei and asked, "Do you want to kill them?" "Kill." Ling Yunfei nodded. If today's matter did not happen, he would consider it. After all, they were all his clansmen. It would be too unreasonable to kill them all. But now, it was obvious that they had entered a situation where they would fight to the death. If he was soft-hearted, sooner or later, he would die in the hands of the other party. However, how could he kill them? The other party could be a martial grandmaster. Qin Feiyang said, "Think of a way to get out first." "That's easy. Just blast it open." Ling Yunfei rolled up his sleeves, his fist covered with qi, and was about to punch upwards. Qin Feiyang hurriedly said, "No, if they haven't left, they will hear the movement here." Ling Yunfei was stunned. He lowered his arm and frowned. "Then what should we do?" Qin Feiyang thought for a while and said, "Use a dagger and slowly dig up." "Okay." Ling Yunfei nodded. Although the efficiency was not very good, it was indeed the safest way. 2 hours later, the two finally returned to the ground. It was quiet all around. They did not see the 12 clan elders. Obviously, they had left. 2 hours had passed. Qin Feiyang's injuries had not healed, but he could still move. Ling Yunfei glanced at the dark forest and asked, "What do we do now?" "Find them." Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed coldly and said, "They can't go to Black Bear City. They must be hiding somewhere nearby. Let's go to the river and find their footprints." Ling Yunfei nodded. Dozens of breaths later, the two quietly came to the edge of the forest and looked towards the river. Through the hazy moonlight, they saw that there was no one by the river, so they walked over. After looking carefully, they soon found the footprints of 13 people. After some confirmation, the two concluded that they followed the river and went downstream. The two followed all the way. 13 people traveling together was a big target. It was easy to distinguish, so they would not lose track. Half an hour later, Qin Feiyang and the other person followed the footprints and entered a dense forest. Soon, in the depths of the forest, they found a valley. The valley was still faintly illuminated by fire. At this moment, it was already late at night. The waning moon was in the sky, and the stars were twinkling. In the forest, it was dead silent. The two came out of the valley, hid behind a protruding rock, and looked inside. 100 meters away, a bonfire burned brightly, illuminating the entire valley. Above the bonfire, there was a wild boar being roasted. The surface was golden yellow, and oil constantly seeped out from the meat, making sizzling sounds. The fragrance assailed their nostrils. 15 figures sat around the bonfire, drinking and chatting merrily. Sometimes, angry curses could even be heard. Qin Feiyang retracted his gaze, frowning. "It is indeed them. But why are there 2 more people?" Ling Yunfei said, looking at their clothes. "They seem to be the guards of the city lord's residence." City lord. Qin Feiyang pondered for a while, a trace of killing intent in his eyes, and said in a low voice, "It seems that these people cannot be left alive." Ling Yunfei said, "Let's talk about this later. Let's think about how to get rid of them first." Qin Feiyang looked again. The 2 guards were obviously not weak. Adding on the 13 martial great masters of the Ling family, they could not force them. Suddenly, his heart moved, and he took out the bottle of poison. Seeing this, Ling Yunfei also instantly understood what Qin Feiyang wanted to do, and said in a low voice, "This poison can indeed kill them, But how do we make them drink it? I have an idea. Qin Feiyang smiled coldly and said, I'll be the bait and lure them out of the valley. You take the chance to go in and poison them. Ling Yunfei said, How can that be? It's too risky. Let me be the bait. Don't worry, they can't catch me. Qin Feiyang did not allow any explanation and directly stuffed the jade bottle into Ling Yunfei's hands, then turned and ran into the forest without looking back. This bastard. He really likes to show off. Chapter 88. Boom. Crack. After a while, loud noises could be heard from the dense forest outside the valley. Thick and strong trees fell down one by one. The noise was so great that it shocked everyone. What's going on? The 15 people who were drinking suddenly stood up and looked through the entrance of the valley towards the dense forest. But because it was too dark, they couldn't see anything. The oldest old man shouted, Old 4, Old 5, go and take a look. No matter who it is, kill them directly. Understood. The two old men nodded and immediately ran towards the entrance of the valley. Not far away, there was a small hill. Qin Feiyang lay in the grass and looked at the entrance of the valley. He frowned when he saw that only 2 people came out. It seemed that this trick didn't work. What else could he do to lure them all out? Right. Am I not the best bait? Qin Feiyang, don't run. He pinched his throat slightly and suddenly roared, What? Qin Feiyang. The 2 old men who came out first rushed towards the forest as if they were injected with chicken blood. At the same time, the eyes of the people in the valley were also shining. Hurry up, as long as we catch Qin Feiyang, we can not only return to Black Bear City, but also be rewarded by the Lin family of Yin City and King Yin. This is a great opportunity. We can't miss it. Whoosh! More than a dozen people ran out of the valley as if they had taken stimulants, including the 2 guards. Sure enough, I'm the most popular one. Seeing everyone running out, Qin Feiyang's lips curled up into a cold smile. Then, he directly entered the ancient castle. When the footsteps were far away, he left the castle and went to meet up with Ling Yunfei. At the same time, Ling Yunfei also quietly slipped into the valley. After pouring the venom into the 15 people's wine jars, he quickly left the valley and hid in his original position. Looking at the dense forest, he couldn't help but worry. Suddenly, a hand appeared behind Ling Yunfei and rested on his shoulder, startling him on the spot. Don't make a sound. It's me. Qin Feiyang's voice rang out. Ling Yunfei heaved a sigh of relief and asked, Where are they? Qin Feiyang smiled and said, He went to look for Qin Feiyang. Ling Yunfei shook his head and laughed in spite of himself. He said, Just now, when I saw that only 2 people came out, I thought that the plan would fail. I didn't expect you to be so quick-witted and use Qin Feiyang as bait. How could he have known that the person standing in front of him was Qin Feiyang himself? I just thought of it at the last minute. Now, we'll just wait for them to come back and catch them all in one fell swoop. Qin Feiyang's eyes surged with killing intent. We chased after it as soon as it roared, but we didn't manage to catch up. How unlucky. It's said that Qin Feiyang is only 15 or 16 years old, but isn't his speed too fast? We can't underestimate him. People who are wanted by the royal family are definitely not simple. Although we didn't find him this time, at least we already know that he is near the Black Bear Mountain. As long as he is near here, he can't escape from our hands. That's right. After dawn, we'll go and look for him carefully. Hundreds of breaths passed. The 15 people walked out of the dense forest, talking as they walked towards the valley. After they entered the valley, Qin Feiyang and the other 2 also followed them in without making a sound. They hid behind the rock from the beginning. The 15 people sat down around the bonfire again. After chatting for a while, the oldest old man stood up with a wine jar and said with a smile, Come, let's celebrate. It wasn't easy to kill those 2 little bastards. We should really celebrate. Tomorrow, we'll go to the snake cave, kill that bastard, and dry it into snake jerky to go with wine. The 2 guards also stood up and said with a smile, Celebrate? Hiding in the dark, Qin Feiyang and the other person's eyes became extremely cold. The oldest old man laughed and said, Come, Let's drink to our heart's content tonight. The 15 people held their wine jars and gulped down the wine. Crack. The old man whose arm was cut off by Qin Fei Yang suddenly trembled. The wine jar in his hand fell to the ground and shattered into pieces. What's wrong? The poison acted up so quickly? Qin Fei Yang and the other person were stunned. They originally thought that the poison would only act up after a while. After all, these people were all martial arts grandmasters. But they didn't expect the poison of the single-horned python to be so terrifying. The real reason was that the old man had lost too much blood. His body was weak and his resistance had decreased. That was why the poison acted up so quickly. Old 8, what's wrong with you? The other 14 people who didn't know the truth looked at the old man in confusion. There's something wrong with this wine. Spit it out. Old 8 growled and was the first to lie on the ground. His fingers dug into his throat and he vomited. What's wrong? Everyone was puzzled. There's poison. Old 8 shouted. What? The others were shocked. But at this moment, Old 8 screamed and fell to the ground. He was foaming at the mouth and his whole body was twitching nonstop. That's right. It's a sign of poisoning. The rest of the people turned pale. Bang bang. The 2 guards also fell to the ground at the same time. Their hands were clutching their necks and they were screaming in pain. Their lips were turning black at a speed visible to the naked eye. It was obvious. Their strength was not as strong as the other elders of the Ling family. Now is the time. Hurry up and stop them from taking the antidote pill. Seeing this, Qin Fei Yang shouted in a low voice. The 2 of them rushed out from behind the rock almost at the same time. The scene was a mess. No one noticed them. Who has the antidote pill? Take it out quickly. The old man roared. I have. One of the guards shouted with all his strength. The older man rushed over and pulled the chinkuan bag tied to the guard's waist. He was about to take out the antidote pill. Zhang Haoyin, Ling Yunfei, why are you here? At this moment, one of the elders noticed Qin Fei Yang and Zhang Haoyin behind him. He suddenly exclaimed and his old face was filled with disbelief. What? The rest of the people were shocked and turned to look. They were not dead. Grab the chinkuan bag. Qin Fei Yang shouted explosively. He suddenly stomped on the ground and leaped high into the air like an eagle. The older man suddenly realized and shouted, They are the ones who poisoned us. Hurry up and stop him. There were still 11 people who had not been poisoned. Hearing this, their eyes were filled with killing intent as they leaped up to stop Qin Fei Yang. But they had just jumped up. 10 of them screamed and rolled to the ground. Their bodies were twitching and white foam was coming out of their mouths. It was obvious that the poison was acting up, but one of them was fine. Without a doubt, this person and the older man were the 2 two-star martial grandmasters that Ling Yunfei mentioned. Go to hell. He grabbed Qin Fei Yang's ankle. Seething with anger, he flung it forcefully. At that moment, Qin Fei Yang was like a meteorite. With a bang, he hit a rock beside him. He spat out blood and his ribs were broken on the spot. At the same time, Ling Yunfei took the opportunity to step over the bonfire and pounce on the older man's chinkuan bag. Unfilial son. The older man roared and slapped Ling Yunfei's left shoulder. Bang. Immediately, Ling Yunfei was sent flying by the slap. He spat out blood, and his right shoulder was fractured. His skin was torn, and his flesh was badly mutilated. His consciousness was also fainting quickly. I'll kill you later. The older man smiled and took out a detoxification pill. He was about to consume it, but at this moment, Ling Yunfei gritted his teeth and pounced on the older man. He waved his left hand and slapped the detoxification pill and the chinkuan bag away. He then bit the older man's ear. He had actually bitten off the ear. The pain made the older man's face contort and he howled in pain. Seeing this, the man who seriously injured Qin Fei Yang hurriedly ran towards the 2 of them. At the same time, Qin Fei Yang also gritted his teeth and endured the pain. He kicked his legs and pounced on the man, pushing him to the ground. Then he took out the Chang Shui and stabbed it into the back of the man's head without hesitation. That man died on the spot. You 2 damn little bastards, go to hell. The older man roared at the same time. Immediately after, Ling Yunfei was once again sent flying by his slap. He flew several meters away and hit the ground. He immediately closed his eyes. It was unknown whether he was dead or alive. Old thing, I'll kill you. Qin Feiyang's eyes were red. Holding the Chang Shui, he pounced on the older man like a mad beast. His whole body was full of hostility. Seeing this, the old man ignored Qin Feiyang and ran towards the detoxification pill. But after running a few steps, he staggered and fell to the ground. White foam came out of his mouth. His body also began to twitch. His eyes were full of unwillingness as he struggled to crawl towards the detoxification pill. The detoxification pill was about to be in his hands. However, at this time, Qin Feiyang ran over and grabbed the detoxification pill. "Give it to me, I beg you." The older man immediately begged in despair. But Qin Feiyang turned a deaf ear to him. He quickly ran to Ling Yunfei and stuffed the detoxification pill into Ling Yunfei's mouth. Because the single-horned python's poison would seep into the blood, Ling Yunfei had just bitten off the older man's ear and must have swallowed the blood. If he did not take the detoxification pill in time, he would also be poisoned. Immediately after, he hurriedly checked on Ling Yunfei's condition. Fortunately, his heart was not hurt. He was lucky to survive, and now he just fainted. After giving Ling Yunfei the healing pill and bone-replenishing pill, Qin Feiyang got up and turned to look at the older man. This person did not give up and crawled towards the Chinku and back. Qin Feiyang grabbed Chang Shui and walked over step by step. The pain caused by his broken ribs made his killing intent even stronger. The older man heard the footsteps and begged as he crawled, "Please do me a favor and save me." "Save you?" Qin Feiyang sneered and stepped on the Chinkoan bag, saying, "A few hours ago, when you killed me and Ling Yunfei, why didn't you show mercy? You want me to save you? Fine, as long as you can crawl over. I'll put the detoxification pill into your mouth." The older man crawled with all his might, but after crawling for a long time, he was still in his original position. He had no strength left, only despair and resentment. Qin Feiyang walked over, looked down at the older man and said, "Actually, I have to thank you. Otherwise, I really wouldn't have been able to catch all of you in one fell swoop." A trace of doubt appeared in the older man's resentful eyes. Qin Feiyang said, "Do you know what was in the snake cave? There was a single-horned anaconda. I almost lost my life in order to kill it. But thankfully, not only did I succeed in killing it, I even obtained its venom." When the older man heard that, it was too late for regrets as he stuttered. "How did you poison us?" Qin Feiyang sneered. "You're not unfamiliar with the name Qin Feiyang, right?" The older man was enlightened. Qin Feiyang continued, "To tell you the truth, I'm actually the Qin Feiyang you're looking for. Zhang Haoyan is just a fake name." The elderly man's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. "Can you die in peace now?" Qin Feiyang bent down and grinned, revealing a mouthful of pearly white teeth. With a swing of Chang Shui, a cut appeared on the older man's neck. Blood splattered everywhere, dyeing Qin Feiyang's body red. Chapter 89. The old man died. The others were also poisoned to death. This also meant that the entire army had been wiped out. Qin Feiyang stood up and looked at the corpses around him, but his gaze became colder and colder. These people were at most cannon fodder. The one who really deserved to die was the city lord. He sat by the bonfire, took a healing pill and a bone-replenishing pill, looked at the rising flames, and fell into deep thought. As time passed, one breath after another, the bonfire gradually extinguished. The fragrant roasted boar was also burnt. But Qin Feiyang was completely unaware, as if he was an old monk meditating. Gradually, the horizon began to brighten, but there was no sun. The sky was filled with thick clouds, as if a storm was coming, causing people to feel inexplicably depressed. At this time, Ling Yunfei finally woke up, opened his eyes, and looked at the sky in confusion. Suddenly, he seemed to have thought of something and suddenly got up. As if facing a great enemy, he vigilantly scanned his surroundings. "Don't be nervous, they're all dead." Qin Feiyang's voice sounded like a reassuring pill. Ling Yunfei immediately heaved a sigh of relief. "It hurts." After relaxing, an intense pain swept over him like a tide, causing him to grimace in pain. Qin Feiyang also restrained his mind, stood up and looked at Ling Yunfei, and said with a faint smile, "Your injuries are too serious. It's best not to do any strenuous activities." Ling Yunfei asked, "What about you?" Qin Feiyang said, "I'm fine." However, his pale face was enough to show that his situation was not optimistic. Ling Yunfei looked at him doubtfully and said in a deep voice, "If the city lord finds out that we are not dead, he will definitely continue to deal with us. Tell me, shouldn't we make the first move?" Qin Feiyang shook his head. He is not only the city lord of Black Bear City, but also a genuine war king. How could it be so easy to kill him? Ling Yunfei frowned. This was indeed a difficult problem. Qin Feiyang said, "Let's go, we'll talk about it when we get back." After collecting the Chinquin bags of the 15 people, the two of them left the valley. However, not long after the two of them left, another guard of the city lord's mansion ran towards the valley. With such a good opportunity last night, Zhang Haoyan should have already been killed by them. He muttered to himself with a bright smile on his face. However, when he entered the valley and saw the 15 corpses, his smile froze. He hurriedly ran over and examined them carefully. In the end, his expression was filled with shock. They were all dead. Who did it? He glanced around and didn't find anyone else, so he immediately returned home. How is this possible? City Lord's mansion. The city lord suddenly stood up and glared at the guard. His face was filled with disbelief. The guard knelt on the ground and said respectfully, "This subordinate saw it with his own eyes." "It's absolutely true. What a joke. 2 9-star martial masters, 11 1-star martial great lords, and 2 2-star martial great lords. With such a lineup, who can kill them? Unless Luo Xiong and the others personally take action." The city lord raged in disbelief. The guard said, "Sir, it can't be Luo Xiong and the others." "What do you mean?" The city lord frowned. The guard said, "They were all poisoned to death. With Luo Xiong's strength, there was no need to poison them. If I'm not wrong, it should be Zhang Haoyan and Ling Yunfei." "Impossible," the city lord roared. "It can't be wrong, because I found a few sky blue hairs on the body of the Ling family's grand elder. In the entire Black Bear City, only Ling Yunfei's hair is sky blue." The guard said, "You can't even kill 2 little bastards who are still wet behind the ears. What a bunch of useless trash." The city lord was furious. It was not easy to create such a good opportunity, but in the end, it failed. The guard said, "Sir, don't be impatient. According to my observations, Zhang Haoyan and Ling Yunfei must be seriously injured. If we send people to intercept them now, we will definitely be able to kill them halfway." The city lord's heart skipped a beat as he asked, "Are you sure?" "Yes." The guard nodded. The city lord pondered for a moment and nodded. "Okay, you go to the Zhang family and the Mu family now, and tell the 2 patriarchs that as long as they can kill Zhang Haoyan and Ling Yunfei, this city lord will pretend not to know about their massacre of the Ling family." The city lord is wise. The guard smiled flatteringly, then bowed and retreated. A lake with a radius of 100 feet, lying in a mountain stream. The scales rippled, incomparably clear. On the shore, Qin Feiyang and Ling Yunfei stood on a bluestone, washing the blood on their bodies. "Sigh, it's really like a tiger being bullied by a dog." Ling Yunfei sighed deeply, both angry and helpless. Along the way, from time to time, fierce beasts jumped out to block their way. If they were in their peak state, they wouldn't be afraid. However, he was still injured. Especially Ling Yunfei, he couldn't even walk too fast. Fighting with those fierce beasts, he naturally couldn't avoid injuries. Fortunately, both of them had a lot of healing pills. Otherwise, it would be a problem whether they could survive until now. Qin Feiyang glanced at the lake while washing and said in a deep voice, "Don't be in a hurry to complain. There are probably a lot of water beasts lurking in this lake. Be careful." Dong. Hua. Before his voice died away, there was actually a fierce beast rushing out of the water, setting off a few meters high wave. It opened its bloody mouth and bit at the two. That fierce beast was 5 or 6 meters long, covered in dense scales, and 2 rows of saw-like fangs, revealing an unparalleled ferocious aura. Saw-toothed crocodile. Qin Feiyang's face changed, and hurriedly dragged Ling Yunfei and ran towards the jungle behind them. Bang! The saw-toothed crocodile missed and fell to the ground, shaking the earth. Immediately, its four limbs moved, making a rumbling sound, chasing after Qin Feiyang and Ling Yunfei. Its speed was not slower than the two of them. Moreover, wherever it passed, the rocks and trees in front of it were directly knocked away. It was incomparably powerful. Why are we so unlucky to encounter such a monster? Ling Yunfei was so angry that he cursed. The saw-toothed crocodile and the black scale crocodile were social creatures. But the degree of terror was far beyond that of the black scale crocodile. Not only were its scales hard and hard to break, its fangs could easily bite through steel. Most importantly, it was an amphibious creature. Judging from the speed of this saw-toothed crocodile, it was at least an 8-star martial master. Qin Feiyang could only use the smoke-gathering steps to be on par with its speed. Roar! When the two of them ran to the side of a big tree, the withered branches and rotten leaves 3 meters in front of them suddenly opened, and another saw-toothed crocodile swooped out, fiercely biting at the two of them. Heart-lock killing fist. Qin Feiyang's eyes were cold as he punched. Bang! The saw-toothed crocodile was blown away on the spot, and its heart was instantly shattered. You also know the heart-lock killing fist? Ling Yunfei was stunned. However, he immediately realized that he had asked a very stupid question. His heart-lock killing fist was taught by this person. As the master of the killing fist, how could Qin Feiyang not know it? Don't talk nonsense. Pay attention to the surroundings carefully. There could be saw-toothed crocodiles lurking anywhere. Qin Feiyang shouted in a low voice. The two of them continued to flee. Roar! When the saw-toothed crocodile behind them saw that its companion had been killed, it immediately raised its head and roared sorrowfully. Roar! Boom! Crash! This time, it was as if they had poked a hornet's nest. In the lake behind them, saw-toothed crocodiles kept jumping out of the water. Under the withered leaves in the forest, in the grass, and in the bushes, saw-toothed crocodiles of different sizes kept rushing out. It was almost in the blink of an eye. There were no less than 50 saw-toothed crocodiles around Qin Feiyang and his companion. In the distance, there were groups of saw-toothed crocodiles surging towards them, crushing everything in their path. The sound of the rumbling was deafening. Seeing this scene, even with Qin Feiyang's temperament, he could not help but shudder with fear. He said, "It seems that we have unfortunately broken into the nest of saw-toothed crocodiles." Ling Yunfei glanced around and shouted, "There are fewer saw-toothed crocodiles on the right. Let's break through from the right." "All right," Qin Feiyang nodded. At the moment of life and death, the two of them did not care about their injuries and attacked with all their might. They were about to escape from the encirclement. Roar! Boom! But at this moment, a short mountain in front of them suddenly collapsed. A 10-meter-long saw-toothed crocodile rushed out of the dust. Its huge body crushed everything in its way, and its roar shook the heavens and the earth. Those big trees that could only be hugged by 3 or 4 people were bitten off by it. They were like dead wood. Seeing this, Qin Feiyang and his companion immediately turned around and fled for their lives. Because the size of the saw-toothed crocodile would constantly increase with the increase of its cultivation. In other words, the bigger the size, the stronger the strength. And this saw-toothed crocodile was 10 meters long. It definitely had the battle strength of a martial ancestor. However, after running for a few steps, another 10-meter-long saw-toothed crocodile appeared in front of them. At the same time, on the left, on the right, there was another one. Their length was more than 10 meters. They were like small mountains, fierce and impressive. A total of 4 martial ancestor-level beasts made Qin Feiyang and his companion dumbfounded on the spot. In addition to these 4 king saw-toothed crocodiles, there were hundreds of martial master-level saw-toothed crocodiles. How could they escape? Roar! 2 7-meter-long saw-toothed crocodiles rushed over. Heart-lock killing fist. Qin Feiyang and his companion growled at the same time and punched with all their strength. After killing the two saw-toothed crocodiles, Ling Yunfei shouted, "What do we do now? Besides killing our way out, what else can we do?" Qin Feiyang's eyes were gloomy. He decisively took out the Chang Shui and rushed to the left. If they wanted to escape, they could only avoid the four king saw-toothed crocodiles. Chang Shui was invincible and easily tore through the scales of the saw-toothed crocodiles. With the help of perfect martial arts, the two of them killed their way forward. They were invincible. Roar! The two king saw-toothed crocodiles on the left and the front roared. Their two giant tails were raised high and fiercely slapped towards Qin Feiyang and his companion. "No, we can't kill our way out." Qin Feiyang's face sank. He didn't dare to stay any longer. He grabbed Ling Yunfei and entered the castle. Boom! The two giant tails fell and the ground cracked on the spot. Roar! Seeing the two humans disappear into thin air, the four king saw-toothed crocodiles roared in anger. Their giant tails crazily smashed the ground here. After a while, the place was fragmented and dust covered the sky and the sun. At the same time, hundreds of meters away, more than 20 people stood on top of a mountain and looked in the direction of the lake. Their eyes were full of surprise. The leaders were two old men. Both of them had white hair and white beards, but their faces were ruddy and hale. The two of them were the grand elders of the Mu clan and the Jiang clan. The others were also martial ancestor experts of the two clans. The grand elder of the Jiang clan suddenly withdrew his gaze and turned to a middle-aged man beside him. He ordered, "Jiang Xin, go and see what happened over there. If it's Zhang Haoyin and Ling Yunfei, don't alert them." You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.